Thank you. At 7 o'clock, we have a quorum. I'm calling this session back into order. I'm going to turn it over to Jane so you can walk us through item 3.
I recommend that minutes pertaining to an individual's job performance or character, interim superintendent and part-time interim assistant superintendent job performance, remain sealed.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Thank you. It's unanimous.
I recommend that minutes pertaining to an individual's job performance or character, pre-deprivation hearings, non-renewal of teacher contracts, remain sealed.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
I recommend that minutes pertaining to collective bargaining, NEA ESP negotiation update, remain sealed until such time as an agreement has been reached.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Thank you. It's unanimous.
And I recommend that minutes related to the privacy of students and their records, home instruction requests, remain sealed.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Disclosure of executive session votes. Mr. Luzon?
Thank you, sir. We had 22 votes in executive session. No, I'm not going to read all 22. The first 12 votes were identical. All of them concerned pre-deprivation and non-renewal of teacher contracts. And they all were 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Giusti, Johnson, Luzon, Lyall, Macruso, McAllister, and Stahl. Second vote was approval of the executive session minutes of January 21st, 2020 in interim superintendent job performance. 10 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, 10 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstention, 0 recusals. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, Day, Giusti, Johnson, Luzon, Lyall, Macruso, McAllister, and Stahl. Abstaining, Chambers. Third vote, approval of executive session minutes of January 21st, 2020, NEA contract update. 10 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstention, 0 recusals. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, Day, Giusti, Johnson, Luzon, Lyall, Macruso, McAllister, and Stahl. Abstaining, Chambers. Fourth vote, approval of executive session minutes of January 21st, 2020, home instruction request. 10 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstention, 0 recusals. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, Day, Giusti, Johnson, Luzon, Lyall, Macruso, McAllister, and Stahl. Abstaining, Chambers. Fifth vote, home instruction request. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Giusti, Johnson, Luzon, Lyall, Macruso, McAllister. Sixth vote, home instruction request. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Johnson, Giusti, Luzon, Lyall, Macruso, McAllister, and Stahl. Seventh vote, home instruction request. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Giusti, Johnson, Luzon, Lyall, Macruso, McAllister, and Stahl. Vote number 8, home instruction request. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Giusti, Johnson, Luzon, Lyall, Macruso, McAllister, and Stahl. Ninth vote, home instruction request. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Giusti, Johnson, Luzon, Lyall, Macruso, McAllister, and Stahl. 10th vote, home instruction request. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Giusti, Johnson, Luzon, Lyall, Macruso, McAllister, and Stahl. The final vote to return to regular session and visit with you folks. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. In favor, Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Juicy, Johnson, Luzon, Wyold, Macruso, McAllister, and Stahl.
Thank you, sir. Recognition.
Please join me in congratulating or thanking the following. Hopkinton School Committee member Sylvia Stanley for her years of service to Charahoe. We'd like to welcome new Hopkinton School Committee member David Stahl. High school senior Dalton Stone, winner of the 7th Annual Shakespeare Speaking Competition. Dalton will represent Charahoe at the state competition on February 23rd. Grade 5 student Grayson Moffett, winner of the middle school spelling bee. He will represent Charahoe at the state competition on March 14th, 2020. Grade 8 student Rachel Williams, winner of the Silver Key Award in the Scholastic Art Competition. Our high school girls indoor track team won the Dwyer Division Championship with a regular season dual meet record of 10-0. Abby Cole finished first in 3 races, the 3,000, the 1,500, and the 1,000. And Brooke Canizette won the 600. They'll be invited to a future meeting upon completion of class and state championships. Grade 8 student Grayson Snyder, winner of the middle school state wrestling tournament for his weight class. And the high school wrestling team, winners of the Mountie Invite for the 3rd straight year. Kyle Merritt and Dominic Bonanno were 4-0. Wade Husing, James Doherty, and Nate Marchione were 3-0. And Merritt won the award for the most pins in the quickest time for the 4th straight year. Allie Nelson was the first female Charahoe wrestler to place in the top 3 in a varsity tournament with a 4-1 record. Dominic Bonanno and Kyle Merritt both placed first in their respective weight class at the Smithfield Invitational with records of 4-0. And Kyle Merritt set the school mark for career wins with 169 wins on January 30th, and he's actually already exceeded that record. Charahoe Rotary, Frank Hopkins, for the donation of $3,000 to the YMCA, with a portion of this money to be used to offset YMCA mentee memberships for the remainder of the school year. And 4 Charahoe High wrestlers. The wrestlers are keeping Donna very busy with letters. Kyle Merritt, Dominic Bonanno, Wade Husing, and James Doherty each finished with a 5-0 record during the Falcon Duels at Minnechaug Regional in Massachusetts on Saturday.
Thank you. Bill.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Friday was a very stressful day for a lot of individuals today, but I was involved in something that I feel needs to show recognition. School bus come across a broke down tree line, not involving wires. A neighbor was cutting up the tree. Sergeant Christopher Russo of the Charleston Police Department come along, got out of his cruiser and physically helped remove the tree so these students could get on their way in a timely manner. Unfortunately, the school bus come up with another tree on Buckeye Brook Road. In this incident, Officer Scott Perrin was there to assist in removing the tree, and very shortly after that, Sergeant Russo come along and assisted removing the tree. And I just thought that this was something that needed to be brought out, because a lot of times people could see police officers pulling up in their car and sitting in their cruiser with the lights on so nobody gets involved in any kind of an accident. But these guys physically got out there and got their hands dirty to get our kids along the way. So I wanted to bring that up.
That's good recognition. Thanks, Bill. That brings us to public forum. If any members of the public would like to address the committee on anything. We have a young scout here working on her citizen in the community badge. More than welcome to address the committee at any time as well. Apparently not. Okay, moving on then to policy.
Okay, before you is the Personnel Management System Policy. This is a revision, and I recommend approval of the revised policy.
So moved.
Motion and a second to approve the revised policy. Discussion. Yes, sir.
So the policy in a couple places says the superintendent shall conduct a second interview. Would we be better served by saying may conduct a second interview, or a designee could be appointed, so that you have the operational flexibility to deal with things as they come up?
In the case of this policy, I really think it's important that the superintendent does that. In the past, it would come to the school committee for final approval, and now it's coming to the superintendent for final approval. So I think it's important that the superintendent does meet those candidates before they do
Yes, sir.
that.
So, for instance, in a case where the superintendent is unavailable, does that mean we're going to delay appointments?
It's a good question. There are places where it does say superintendent or designee. I mean, I would think that in the assistant superintendent job description, it's going to say that, anything when the superintendent's not available that they can do. So I feel like that would be okay. But in the end of the day, the superintendent would still sign for the appointment.
Fair enough.
Donna.
Yeah, I was just wondering, in the event that you are not that comfortable with the appointment, and I can't imagine this being the case with the administrators that we have in our buildings, but who is the final word on that? Is it just that you work it through with the hiring team, or?
The superintendent would be the one that would have the final word in making that appointment. But honestly, this process really reflects what we've been doing all along. And the only thing that's different is that we used to then bring the names to the school committee for that final approval,
Right.
which would sometimes delay things because we'd have to wait for the next meeting. So this will actually speed it up a little bit. But the process really that's in here, in terms of the superintendent's role, isn't much different. It's just that they're that final step. What is also delineated, though, in here is to give more authority to the principal and to give consultation with the school improvement team as to who conducts that interview.
That's right, and that's probably a really good idea, because we've always brought in the community and a variety of people to serve on these committees, so.
Yeah.
But the superintendent would have the final say. Okay.
Further questions? Those in favor of approval of the revised policy? That is unanimous. Thank you. Business.
I recommend approval of the following field trip request for CTC cosmetology teacher Denise Carnero for 16 students and 7 chaperones to travel to Javits Center, New York, New York, on March 9th, 2020.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion and second to approve the field trip. Discussion. Bill.
I'm not opposed to the field trip, but I would feel more comfortable approving this if I knew who the parents were. I mean, 5 parents is like 4 more than we need to chaperone this trip, and I'm not opposed to the parents going along with their children, but, there's room there, and it says on the back to put more on there, and I just feel that there should be some names attached to the request.
I have the answer. It is a field trip. It has been in the past where the parent goes with the child. It's a
Well, I
mother-
understand that.
yeah.
I would like,
So that's why
I'd
there
like
were
to
so
see
many
this in
families.
writing before I approve sending 5 adults to New York City. Well, I'm not gonna be opposed to it, but I'd
Right.
like to, hopefully in the future, that when it says and they know who they are, they.
Put it in there.
They fill it out properly.
Understood. Further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Jane, could you tell us how the Perkins grant works for field trips? Is this something that was put into the grant when it was originally applied for a Perkins grant? Or, and do we have just a finite pot of money to use the Perkins grant for field trips?
So when we would apply for the grant, we would put a specific amount of money that we would say under field trips. I don't know if it was specific to this field trip.
Okay.
But when we put in for the grant, we would have to budget and say, this certain amount would be for field trips, for career tech education students in
Okay,
that
so
program.
does this amount of money, would it necessarily take away from another, like if we get the skills, kids to travel to the skills, what is it? Yeah, Skills USA, thank you. Yeah.
Skills USA, that's through fundraising, that we don't use the Perkins grant
Okay.
for funding the field trip to Skills USA, that competition.
Okay, all right. I just feel that, with the field trip changing and the funding, we need to be very aware of how we use those dollars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you, Donna. Additional questions? All right. Those in favor of approving the field trip? It's unanimous. Thank you. Letter B.
So, for this next item, I have the honor of bringing forward letters that have been received to name the high school library in honor of Superintendent Barry Ritchie. We have also received permission from his family to grant this request, and I recommend approval to name the high school library in honor of Superintendent Barry J. Ritchie.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to name the high school library after Barry Ritchie. Discussion. Clay, then.
I would like to request the chair's permission to also be listed as a second in this.
To what?
Second.
He would like to be listed as a second as well.
Oh, put us all down.
Thank you. Donna and then
Okay,
Bill.
yeah, is Vinny in the room? I don't know if he's in the room. The letters
Way
were
over there.
excellent,
Way over there.
okay, but Vinny, yours stood out to me because in his letter recommending this, Vinny says Barry never made a decision without exploring all options, and he never allowed his emotions to interfere with what was best for Charahoe. And I thought that was a perfect way of describing it, and I think that needs to be on the application when we're looking for his replacement, because those are qualities that we all saw in Barry. And Vinny, thank you for wording it that way.
Yes, sir.
I been on this committee a long time, and I was here when Barry was hired. And I've had a long history with the gentleman, and I wish that we could have given this honor while he was alive and retired from this district, but I think this is the best way we can honor the gentleman.
Agreed. Agreed. Further discussion? No. Thank you. Those in favor? It's unanimous. So this brings up letter C, which is school committee discussion on the superintendent search. We have John Anderson, our attorney, with us tonight. This is going to be an open discussion among committee members about how we are to proceed with formally filling the role of superintendent. John, if you would give us an overview of our legal obligations and then your experience in this matter.
Sure. Probably the most important decision that you will make on your tenure, during your tenure on the school committee, is picking a superintendent. at this time, basically, school committees do three things. They write policies, they approve budgets, and they hire the superintendent. And the superintendent is the person who will guide your ship into the future. So when you choose a superintendent, you have to be very thoughtful about it, and you have to realize the ramifications of that to your educational system, to your communities, to the people who support through their taxes and their goodwill, your school committees, your school, regional school system. So you need to think about it carefully. You also need to think about it carefully because typically once you enter into a relationship with the superintendent, it's like a marriage. And getting divorced is not easy. You want to try to get it right the first time. What I'm going to do is lay out for you 3 different models that I have seen used here in Rhode Island in terms of hiring a superintendent. And after I lay out the 3 models, I will be happy to answer your questions. But I think at that point, y'all need to start talking amongst yourselves in terms of where you want to go with this and how you want to handle this. First model that I'm going to talk about is that some districts go out and they hire a consultant. In other words, they hire a headhunter to help them with the search process. And I got some information today from NESDEC, which is the acronym for the New England School Development Council. And they are a nonprofit group that helps school districts in New England with, among other things, superintendent selections. They also help, frankly, with demographic projections, administrator training, and so forth. But one of the things that they do is they help school districts around New England in terms of locating candidates and going through the hiring process. They have 4 tiers of services. The first tier of services they have is simply providing outreach services. And for outreach services, essentially, they help you put out the word that you're looking to hire a superintendent. But all the administration, all the processing, all the time-consuming activities, they fall on the school committee. And for the putting out the fact that you're looking for a superintendent, their fee at the current time is between $3,500 and $5,000. The second level of service that they provide is what's known as a guided search. And a guided search essentially means you get everything in the first tier. This is like, a wedding, you get more if you put more money on the table. In a guided search, you get essentially a coach. Somebody that you can pick up the phone and you can talk with, or you can communicate with electronically, through email. But it's going to be somebody who gives you advice and ideas how to do it, but is not going to do the very labor-intensive work that this involves. For that, NESDEC is right now charging between $6,500 and $8,500. The third level of search, and this is what most districts choose, is what they call a comprehensive search. And at that level, NESDEC really rolls up its sleeves and helps you with things like advertising, contacting regional organizations, helping you figure out what exactly do you need here in Charahoe. For example, let's compare it to what, they just selected a superintendent in Providence and they needed a turnaround superintendent. They need somebody who was going to tip over the house. At the comprehensive search level, the consultant helps you figure out what is it that your community is looking for. They provide interview training. That is, the people who are involved in the interview process get training in terms of the right way to ask questions and the wrong way to ask questions. Unfortunately, I have seen, not at the superintendent level, but certainly at the building principal level, some really inappropriate and frankly illegal questions that violate some of the anti-discrimination laws that have been asked as part of the interview process. They would come out and provide training to the people involved in the interview process. They also would help you with what they call entry planning. That is, if you pick John Johnson as being the next superintendent, they will help you and give you advice in terms of rolling out Mr. Johnson to the community. For that service, level of service, the cost is between $12,000 and $20,000. The highest level of service, and I'm going to call this the intergalactic level, is when they work with you to do all of the things I've just described, but they open up the field and they look all over the country. I don't know, I have no idea exactly how the Providence superintendent was recently selected, but I am certain that the type of search that was done there, I mean, they're bringing in a superintendent, an assistant superintendent from Hillsborough County, Florida, who has been an assistant superintendent, I think, in Omaha and Houston and so forth. For that national I'll call it the intergalactic search, they call it a strategic leadership search. You're talking between $30,000 and $40,000. Again, most districts who hire a consultant hire at the comprehensive search level, which is the $12,000 to $20,000 range. So that's the hire a consultant model. That's the first model that I will talk about. The second model I will talk about is the do-it-yourself model. And I will tell you that, I've told you in the past that I've served on a school committee in Pawtucket for 13 years. And we did, 11 years, excuse me. We did the do-it-yourself model around 1995. And it was a lot more work than we expected. It was not a situation, and frankly not appropriate, for us to say, oh, the clerk of the school committee will handle all, the resumes when they come in. Or, oh, we'll have the business administrator do reference checking. We did it with volunteers, and a lot of it was driven, frankly, by one of the members of the school committee who had 3 kids at home. She wasn't working, but her kids were in school during the school day. And for about 2 months, she worked full-time on this in terms of starting with working with the rest of the committee to put together a job description, putting together advertising, literally going to the school administration building and picking up the applications and running the photocopy machine and organizing the community forums that we had in Pawtucket at that time, and arranging, our search was New England and New York is where we looked, and we had both of our finalists came in from New York, putting them up in hotels. We did site visits and arranging for, we need a van and we need to go up around Syracuse and spend the day up around Syracuse at a particular school district. It was actually the candidate from outside of Syracuse who we ended up hiring. But in order to kick the tires and make sure that we were very comfortable, we sent our equivalent of the ESP president, the teachers union president, 2 or 3 out of the 7 school committee members. We sent some parents. We sent a packed van up, to 2 different places in New York so that we could get a real feel by talking to teachers and parents and custodians and what did they actually think. The do-it-yourself is a huge amount of work, and if you're going to do it, somebody at this table kind of needs to put their life on hold for a couple of months and take on a huge amount of responsibilities. I will say we were also very fortunate in that the woman who carried most of the weight for us, she did a great job. She did not let us down. Not only would you need somebody to agree to do it, they actually have to do the work. That's the second model. The third model is to hire from within. And again, I will use my experience in Pawtucket as an example. In 2015, the Pawtucket School Department was looking for a new superintendent. Pawtucket, about 4 years before, had done they hadn't done the intergalactic search. They did the let's look all over the place search and bring people in from all over. And they brought somebody in who had ties to Rhode Island, but on the other hand, was an assistant superintendent in Reno, Nevada. And it turned out to be, without going into the details, a difficult relationship in that expectations, people didn't know each other. It's like, getting married after a blind date. And as a result of that, when it came time for contract renewal, they didn't renew. What they did was they appointed Pawtucket has 2 assistant superintendents. The committee selected one of the 2 to be the interim superintendent. In that case, I believe it was for a 6-month period. And essentially it was a test drive. And at the end of the 6-month period, they were very pleased. They knew what they were getting because the woman, her name was Patricia DeCenzo, her name still is Patricia DeCenzo. People were very comfortable. They knew exactly what they were getting. She knew the community, they knew her, and so forth. And she served as the superintendent of schools until she retired June 30th, 2019. That's the third model that I can present to you. What you need to talk now amongst yourselves is, how do you want to go about it? Because one thing I will share with you is that if you're going to do a big, broad search, you're starting to run out of time. Because most school superintendents start on July 1st. And the time that they are running around interviewing, a friend of mine, I'm personally friendly with another superintendent here in Rhode Island, and he was interviewing both in Rhode Island and Massachusetts in February and March. And, he did like 5 different districts in February and March, and he ended up as the assistant superintendent in a district here in Rhode Island. He's now the superintendent in a district in Rhode Island again, because in that district they knew the superintendent was going to retire in a year, so he had a 1-year essentially tryout as the assistant superintendent. The committee liked him, the committee was comfortable, and he's now on his second 3-year contract. You all have to, though, figure out what you're doing, and this is not I don't want to pressure you, but I want you to really understand that this is not something that you can, if you kick the can down the road to April or May or June, you are not going to, and you decide to do the external search, you're not going to get the best candidates. The best candidates are going to be picked in February and March. I think I've done enough talking. I will take a seat. If people have questions for me as you go along, I'm happy to answer them. But this is probably the most important job that you do as members of the school committee, and I think you need to talk amongst yourself.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. I would like it to open to the committee to hear what the committee thinks in terms of path forward and where their thinking lies. So I open it up to committee members who have an opinion on this. Yes,
I
Lynn?
have a question for John. I don't know if has anyone spoken to any person from NASDAQ? I mean, are they gonna, if we contacted them, are they gonna kind of tell us, you're kind of behind the 8 ball, or, will they be more optimistic if we wanted to do the comprehensive search? Will they be honest with us at the beginning that, it's gonna be limited?
In answer to that question, no. We simply got some pricing information.
Okay.
From NASDAQ. I can simply tell you, though, from experience in other districts, I mean, this is not the first time that I've changed superintendents. In fact, of the 5 districts that I'm the general counsel for, this is the 4th one of the 5 that have changed hands. I know from experience that February and March is superintendent picking time, and that if you start getting more towards May and June, you're picking the people who didn't get picked at the dance in, February, March. That's the reality of the situation.
We just don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
So to start the discussion, I would recommend that we as a committee at least think to eliminate the do-it-yourself model.
Agreed.
Right? I think probably consensus that at this time, especially with budgets, with our time is stretched pretty thin, and we want to do this well. So we just put out there that do-it-yourself is, I'm not going to be that woman that fills out the photocopy. And I know that most of us can't do that either. I think that because of the gravity of this, because of the legacy that Battery has left, because of the totality of the circumstances that we're in and we face with what was initially a nearly $60 million budget, that we owe it to our district and to our personnel, to our staff, to do a comprehensive search. Of these tiers, tier 2, which I think John called comprehensive, and I think Linda's what you're referring to, feels like a comfortable start for me. Given that our timeline's tight, I would hope that we'd be at that midpoint in terms of fees, like not necessarily up towards the 20, but even if we do, I think $20,000 investment here is well placed. In a little bit, we're going to talk about an independent management study and another item. But when we're thinking about how to assess our district, how to choose a leader, and what we already do and what we have already purchased, I would be willing to lean in up to $20,000 to do this in a comprehensive way. So I'll start there and see if there's disagreement or agreement.
So Craig's next, and then Linda.
Do you think it would be prudent to have establish a subcommittee tonight and any other stakeholders?
I think I'd like the committee to kind of land on what the approach would be, and then from there, I'd really like us to start to get granular on how to move it forward. But I think step one is I think Lisa made some excellent points. I think it's something that we should vet. But one I would like coming out of this is a decision on the path forward, as well as the establishment of the initial committee, subcommittee, if so needed, in order to move that forward. Linda?
Just to comment, I agree with Lisa. I think we should do the comprehensive search. I think that it's well worth the money. I was involved in my last district with a search committee for a superintendent, and we used NASDAQ, and they're very good. I mean, as far as my opinion was they were very professional, very thorough, and really would listen to us as a committee as far as what we thought we needed and wanted and what we were looking for. So I don't have any issues with NASDAQ. I just don't know if there's any other associations that do that. Yeah.
Agreed. Donna?
Yeah, I've always gone the do-it-ourselves route, but I agree that this is really serious stuff here. But it's interesting because we don't know what the interest is in-house. We haven't even gotten a feel for that. And before we commit that kind of money and sign a contract with any association, we met Mario tonight, and you're a consultant, and you probably have your feelers out for people that probably have the experience that could apply. We have a family friend who was a former superintendent in Connecticut and now serves as a consultant for 2 superintendents. And maybe the word is out. Maybe some people will just come forward and say, I know what your district is, and I'd like to be considered for that. So, I mean, $20,000 is not a lot of money if it finds the right person, but we haven't even begun to put our feelers out yet. So, that's my feeling.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not opposed to it,
Understood.
but we don't know what we're dealing with yet. This is our first attempt at this.
Yeah, I understand. George?
I would tend to agree with Donna's summary.
Yeah. You know, I would say that if the committee's decision is to vet the greatest number of candidates as quickly as possible, and then parse those down to a subset that we then choose to formally interview or something like that, the fastest, most expedient way to do that would be to employ a professional agency that knows what they're doing and put some dollars into that. And the comprehensive search does do this. I've been through many hiring kind of programs in terms of my work in bringing in top talent. You can sit back and wait for it to happen. That's I would just simply say that I think us being proactive would probably lead to a better understanding of the field of candidates, and we'd probably get a much more rapid response. I don't think the dollar amount should be prohibitive. Yes, ma'am.
I'm in agreement with that path comprehensive. It's a huge undertaking, thank you, that we're heading into. And to know who we are and what we need, we sometimes need outside help to sort through it all.
Agreed. Agreed. Lisa?
And to follow up on Donna's point, I align with the feelings that like this is our district, it's our home, and we want to have input and we want to have control over that. The way I heard John's description of Tier 2 was that there would be somebody who would do the marketing, the advertising, the admin, and the coaching, but that we would still retain complete control over, to Craig's question, whether or not we have a search committee, we have a panel, if we hold community forums, how much input that we seek from our faculty, our students, our community, who sits on that, who those candidates will be, who gets moved forward. I think there's still a tremendous amount of work and involvement for us. And I may have been a little short-worded when I described it initially, but I don't want to push off the majority of the responsibility. Just the administration of the recruitment is what I was thinking. But that beyond that, I would hope, I know I've expressed interest, I know others have, of certainly being absolutely, right, involved in everything down to the questions that we ask, the candidates, the expectations that we have. I think we'll still do that, John. That was my understanding, is that this is a coaching model, admin, marketing, but that we will still retain a significant amount of control over how it's designed.
At the end of the day, the school committee has all of the control because it is a school committee decision, and just like I am a vendor who provides you services, at the end of the day, you make the decisions, not I. And it's the same with regard to hiring a superintendent search, an entity like NESDEC to come in and help you. But at the end of the day, it is your decision. Again, I will draw on my own personal experience. I was not on the search committee. I was on the school committee, but I was not on the search committee. But at the end of the day, I was one of the 7 votes that decided, and it was a 4-3 vote, like everything on that committee was. I was one of the people on that committee who cast the final vote. We listened to the recommendations, we listened to the search committee, we interviewed the candidates ourselves, and at the end of the day, we made a vote, and I'm actually kind of proud of the fact that he then served Tuckett for over 10 years.
So David and then Craig.
Just wanted to point out in response to what Donna was saying that if I understand the process with an agency like this, it's certainly not, it doesn't exclude all of the other avenues of
Right.
finding candidates,
Right.
local candidates and internal. So it's not that you're either reaching out through a comprehensive search or you're looking here. You're doing both, but you can't do both unless you also do the comprehensive search. So.
Craig?
Thanks.
So, was that what you were going to say?
That was
Words right out of your
exactly
mouth.
what I was gonna say.
All right, I might think like, Don and
I
then
particularly
George.
like, oh, I'm sorry.
No,
No, it's
you're
you.
first.
Oh,
I
it's
was just
me?
letting
Yeah,
George
okay.
know he's next.
Again, okay, I'm sorry to be so wordy, but my daughter calls it a working interview. When she hires someone, she does a working interview for a certain length of time. I like what John said. John, can we hire, do we have to offer a 3-year contract? If we find someone, I love the idea of having someone come in and do a year, a year of service.
And the answer is, again, the committee, a majority of the committee can do whatever you'd like.
Right.
I'm going to caution you on that because the general rule is superintendents get 3-year contracts. And if you're only offering a 2-year contract and, you know, Stonington is offering a 3-year contract, you're going to lose the candidate you want for Stonington. The market is 3 years. But I want to make it very clear, Donna, yes, you have that authority.
Yeah, and we don't know who the individuals would be
I
yet.
agree.
So it might be someone from within, it might be someone from
I
the
agree.
state. So anyway, I just like that idea. I think in the end, it will pay off for us, that we have opportunity to see how this person operates. Yeah.
All right, George and then Bill.
John, you mentioned the February, March timeline to get the optimal candidate. Does this organization have the resources
Yeah.
to meet that timeline?
The answer is yes. This is what they do. They do purposes. They're very well-known. They've been around for years. They know what they're doing. This is what they do.
Bill.
I'm sitting here listening to fellow committee members, and I think we have enough votes, unless someone is going to speak against this, to vote to go with a comprehensive search.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear a second. I had so moved.
Well,
Second.
Second, open for discussion. John?
I want to be very clear that what you are asking me to do is to contact NESDEC and to enter into an agreement for a comprehensive search which covers, I'll read their description, covers the broad scope of search services requested by most of our clients. It typically includes advertising development, active regional and national recruitment, community needs assessment, development of the candidate profile, interview training, and follow-up services such as interview planning and governance training. And that the budget that they set for that is between $12,000 and $20,000. I want to just make it very clear that that's what you are directing me to do.
Is any
I-
committee member misunderstanding that or opposed to what John just said?
I do have a question in reference to it. That's a big span.
I understand, and you know that I will negotiate to keep it as low as possible. I will say that I will be, I think that it's very helpful to me when I do these things to have a second pair of eyes, and I will be asking Mrs. Rogers to help me with this process. I normally would not do that, but given the fact that Mrs. Rogers is going to be retiring shortly, I think she is well situated to work with me on that piece of the puzzle. I also frankly will be working, you choose a chairman, you elect a chairman for a reason, to be the leader, and from time to time there will be various questions, and I will need to consult with the chairman for example, in terms of finalizing the level of services, we don't have the luxury of time of me to come back and give you in a month a presentation of this is what NESDEC is going to do, and so forth. The chairman needs to have, I need to have the authority to negotiate, but at the end of the day, your chairman is the person, for example, that I'm going to say, this is what I think is the best deal. Will you, on behalf of the district, please sign this contract? I want to make sure he has that authority as well.
So what I was gonna continue asking on that was, so in theory, the shorter the time frame, closer to the 12, the longer it takes, closer to the 20?
No, I don't think so. I think it's more a level of, it's like buying a car. You get, it's the level of services that you decide. And if, for example, the delta on a community assessment is $3,000, I want to be able to talk to Mrs. Rogers and her chair, and if they say, that's really not the best use of the $3,000, we won't do that. And instead of spending 20, we'll spend 17. But I need a little, given the fact that you're on a short time frame, you're not doing this in September where I can come back at the October meeting, that the chairman has, I will work with Mrs. Rogers, but at the end of the day, the chairman has some flexibility as well.
Thank you.
Questions and comments on this? So, just so I understand, it would be that I have the ability to approve the contract in terms of how they're going to conduct their search and the content of it. I would be taking my instruction from what the school committee decides to do going forward after this, which in turn is whether there's a subcommittee, whether there's something like, correct. I just want the committee to understand this is not me, this is just helping to expedite the process in terms of approving of the contract and how the search will be conducted and the cost of it. It is not circumventing what the search criteria is, the candidates identified and vetted. That is, I will not do that. I don't want to do that. That's too much for one person. It'd be unfair. Donna.
So I have a question. John, how did we get Jane? Because I didn't even know the search party was out there, and all of a sudden, we found out that Jane came on. Was it through this association as well? Or, Jane, did we put the word for assistant superintendent?
My recollection at the
But it's linked to comprehensive search.
that I would defer to Donna is that we advertised the position, and my vague recollection is that we advertised it broader than the Providence Journal. We advertised in Massachusetts as well. And my vague recollection is actually the two finalists came from Massachusetts, one from sitting here.
Okay.
But the difference was that the person who ran that show was Barry.
Barry, right.
And as Lisa pointed out, nobody at this table wants to do is able, I shouldn't say want, is able to do it yourself.
Bill.
John's absolutely right, it's similar to how we have Mario over there. Jane put the feelers out, and so, I think we're getting a little bit too in-depth in how things are going to happen, and we're dragging on here to the point there where we have a lot of things going on here, and I think we need to vote on this and go in another direction, personally.
Fair enough. I appreciate that opinion. Any further discussion on this? We have a motion and a second to proceed with the comprehensive search under, with the caveats that we pointed out in terms of Sue Rogers and myself being involved to the extent that we can sign off. No further discussion. Those in favor of the proposal will move forward. It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so we as a committee have decided that we will commence with a comprehensive search. We now need to figure out how we're going to engage in the vetting process. Mr. Luzon, you had a question?
Could I give a kind of a strange question, a partial motion, which can be, after discussion ensues, it could be finalized with that? Such as, I make a motion to establish a subcommittee between members of the school committee not to exceed a quorum and, or smaller, and members of stakeholders possibly that are here, but the numbers I want to determine once the group talks about it.
So you just want to make a motion to establish a subcommittee?
There we go. And we can determine with the discussion.
Okay.
So I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second to establish a subcommittee. Discussion. Phil?
I think 3 members of the subcommittee should be a representative from each town council as a start. Because we do know that we have a issue here with town councils in the past, and we'll continue to have issues forever and ever. So I think that would be a good start to have a representative from each town council on that subcommittee, along with whatever numbers that we choose to put up.
Clay?
So it sounds to me like the comprehensive plan, which we voted on, part of that will give us the parameters that we're looking for in terms of what we need for this district. So it sounds to me like we're a little bit early with the subcommittee.
It's February 11th.
It gives the town councils an opportunity to have a meeting to appoint somebody.
Yes, I guess my understanding of how the comprehensive search would work is that they would need input from and guidance from the district, and that guidance would then start to shape that
Right.
search process. I guess in my head, I assumed that guidance would come from the subcommittee.
I agree.
Lisa?
So there are other ways to ensure that we have stakeholder input
There are.
besides appointing somebody to a search committee. And John talked about community forums. I mean, there's multiple modalities for not only like eliciting input, but recording it, and then using that information. So I feel we can move forward. We can be sure that everyone's included without having to establish the makeup until we get the feedback from the consultant. So yes, so we don't need the subcommittee yet. And of course, we would want to get town council input, but it doesn't have to be as part of an appointed task force just yet. We really need NESDEC to tell us, based on their research, what is most appropriate for our needs and our timeline. We don't want to have to go back and undo something we've done.
I got you. Okay, I think I captured that. Thank you. Linda?
I think we need a committee, even if it's just even if it's just members of the school committee to start to have the conversation with NESDAQ, and then decide whether we want other people on the committee, whether we want to have some outreach, whether we want community forums. I think we need some sort of subgroup, to actually start the process. And then if we want to bring other people on,
Yeah.
let the committee decide that. Like maybe have the committee come up with a plan of action for us.
Yeah, I think I was really leaning into Linda's position on this, but I don't know, Lisa and Clay, you're making me rethink, and I want to ask John a question. Given that we have a school committee meeting fairly quickly, 2 weeks out from now, on the 25th, I believe, is that enough time to engage NESDEC and get from them the information that they need from us to proceed? Then we can have a follow-up agenda item on our next school committee meeting where we review that and from there establish the subcommittee?
I am optimistic that we can try to set something up. Today is Tuesday. I would love to be able to set something up for the end of the week. I think that there is a lot of value in Linda's suggestion that at least a small group of people, and you're the elected people from the school committee, sit down with the people from NESDEC before the next school committee and come back and say, NESDEC suggested this, NESDEC talked about that, NESDEC said community forums are a good idea, NESDEC said community forums discourages people from applying because they don't want their current employer to know that they're looking.
Right.
Have two or three people, because again, first of all, I want to make it very clear that I was not trying to unload all this on the chair.
Not that area,
Number
not
one, and number two, I really do believe that several minds are, people putting their head together, but I think it would be really nice if 2 weeks from today, 2 or 3 people came back from the committee and said, we talked with the NASDAQ people, they said, they suggested this, they suggested that.
Agreed.
And then you all have a discussion as the school committee, and, for example, one thing they're going to talk about is how big is your search committee. I've seen school districts that have had search committees of 15 people. Pawtucket had 9,000 students, we had 7. And they're going to give advice to the people on this, what I envision being a small group, and then the small group is going to tell you. You can say, no, we want 15 people, or, no, we want to keep it small and tight. But I think Linda's suggestion for the next 2 weeks is the right one. It's my own personal advice.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I would just suggest that we could post a meeting and all the school committee members could be invited. And if we don't get a quorum for previous discussions, we could still discuss things, we just couldn't vote on things. So I don't think a formal subcommittee is necessary to accomplish what you just said, John.
That is a fair point. What we could do is simply as posted my hope would be to try to get somebody on the ground from NASDAQ here towards the end of next week, and then get them to talk to people. We can post it as a school committee meeting, and if there's a quorum, great. If there's not a quorum, there's not a quorum. The answer is yes. Clayton.
I am open to suggestions from committee members. I like a lot of what I'm hearing. I guess I would also feel comfortable if one committee member from each town was engaged with John in pursuing this and then being able to come back to us. But I don't know if that needs. I don't think that needs a formal subcommittee for that either. I think it's just a person from each town from this committee. I think you'll have greater flexibility when you can have that NASDAQ meeting, and you'll still accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. I don't think we need to formally create the committee tonight. I think we could just have a volunteer from each town, and as long as it's.
I just want to say, if you volunteer to do this, please make sure that you have the time to do it.
Understood. So we have a motion and a second to create a subcommittee. Is there further discussion on creating the subcommittee? Those in favor of creating the subcommittee? 4. Those opposed? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Abstained?
So, in lieu of
Recusal? Did we get?
10, 11.
All right, we're good. Okay, sorry, I'm just counting in hand. Okay, so we're not going to create a formal subcommittee tonight, but we are going to proceed with engaging NASDAQ. So we need some committee members to volunteer to support John in that process, and then the objective would be to come back at the next school committee meeting, report out what we need, create the subcommittee, and then move forward. So committee members who would like to volunteer to support that? Lisa? Excellent. Thank you. Donna? Clay? Fantastic. Anybody else that wants to be involved? No? Perfect. Then work with John, and the 4 of you will work on your schedules, and we'll see you back on the 25th, and with the expectation to report out.
What 4 of you are there, please?
There's 3.
Oh, God, sorry.
The 4 of you with John.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry. You're good. Okay, so is there any further discussion that we need to have on letter C at this point in time? We have a path forward. Appreciate the input and guidance. John, thank you so much for attending this evening and walking us through that. We appreciate it. Okay, great. So let's move on with our agenda. There's a lot to cover still.
Thanks,
so
John.
letter D.
Letter D, guidelines followed in the event of a flu outbreak. This item is on the agenda at the request of George Abbott.
Well, I'm fully in agreement with the procedures that you outlined in your email.
Would you like me to communicate those?
Yeah.
And so actually, I'm glad that George asked to have this on the agenda because it's very timely. We have had issues with illnesses over the past 2 weeks. And our response is the school nurse contacts the Rhode Island Department of Health when there's a clustering of 3 to 4 students within one classroom during the same week. And that's with documented flu, but that's actually true for any disease. So just for your information. And the school nurse also notifies the parents in the school with children who are medically compromised. Another part of our protocol is when there's a clustering of reported incidents at the discretion of the principals in consultation with the school nurse. Notices are distributed to classes or school-wide. We do encourage students and staff to stay home until he or she has been fever-free, a temperature of less than 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius for 24 hours without the use of fever-reducing medication. At the building level, we increase our cleaning areas of door handles and tabletops. We recently, on Friday, just due to a spike in students being absent, provided disinfectant wipes at each of the school's offices if teachers wanted to use them in their classroom. And students are reminded to wash their hands often throughout the day and cough or sneeze into their elbow. In the packet, you'll see there's information from the Rhode Island Department of Health on the flu, and we do follow the Rhode Island Department of Health rules and regulations for school health programs. But the important thing to remember is just to, again, take care of yourself, stay home if you're not feeling well. There has been a spike, but it has started to decrease, so we're fortunate in that respect.
Thank you. Any questions for Jane? No? Okay, that brings us to letter E, independent management study.
This
Yeah,
item was on the agenda at the request of Donna
I had
Chambers.
requested this to be on the agenda because I did receive a call from, a letter, a suggestion from Senator Morgan concerning the audit. And I also had a copy of Mr. Landolfi's request for the audit that I guess you sent to Jane. And I just really was a bit surprised at this. I felt personally that it undermined our administration, that because the letter focused the need for the audit based on employment, and that we were overemploying people. And as long as I've been on the school committee, there has never been a recommendation to staff a certain position without it being carefully considered. So I question the need of the audit, number one, and secondly, we have no idea how much this would cost and what is the need for this audit, because I just don't see us as having too many employees in this school district, so.
Yeah, so thank you for the comments, Donna. Just a bit of a clarification.
Yeah.
So originally, there was a request for an audit as well as an efficiency study. Those are two separate things. We already undergo an audit annually.
Okay.
I totally agree that there's no point in having an additional independent body audit us. We already undergo that. So I took the letter as a request to engage in or employ individuals to perform efficiency studies on the district to see where there is redundancies or gaps and those types of things. So with respect to that and your comment about cost, the list that was provided to us, Sue, did you reach out to them? Jane? I forget who.
I have the information.
So there was, the administration reached out to them to gauge the general cost of those type of studies, and those numbers have been provided in your packet. Jane, I don't know if you want to comment on those.
Of the 5 companies that were given from Senator Morgan, one of them does not deal with schools. That was this is what they've told us. It's called the School Efficiency Consultants, but when we called the number, it said that they don't deal with schools. I'm not sure why. And then another one, they only deal with independent schools, so that wouldn't be helpful. But we were able to reach from MGT Consulting Group. Just this week, we were able to get a packet with a price. And so that has been added and given to you this evening. And it is pretty extensive. It talks about what services they provide. And the cost is $89,996.14. And that's for a district of our size, is where they gave us a price, a proposal. And the other company that we reached that was on the list is called School Efficiency Consultants. It was a different phone number. And they told us that they would do an independent management audit, but they would need to know more information before giving us a quote. However, there are 3 partners, and their hourly rate is $195. The consultants are slightly less, and they would charge us an hourly rate and travel, and they are in North Carolina. So if we want to pursue that, then we can do that and get an RFP.
So one of them, so 90,000 for one, and then 24,000 per week plus travel expenses for the others. Okay, Bill.
I would not be opposed to a management study, but I don't see where the money's coming from. The second issue that I have, and maybe it's my longevity here or my old age or whatever, but I would have to feel comfortable that this committee or follow-up members of the committee would be willing to implement changes in the way we do things here to make the study worthwhile. Because we're all taxpayers here, we all have friends, and when our friends start calling us up and saying we can't get rid of XYZ over there, how many of them are going to cave and say, you're right, we're going to turn around and throw this management study right out the window because we can't please the voters in the district by implementing a lot of this stuff. So that's my biggest concern.
Agreed. George.
MGT did a study, I believe it was 1994, of share hauling. It caused a lot of dissent in the district.
Okay. Clay.
So I think it's important to not necessarily judge the study by the cost, but by the value it delivers. And this is a very interesting time with a new change in Rhode Island to work at the building level, and with a new superintendent coming on board at some point. I think there could be a lot of value in this, because we're certainly changing almost everything we're doing. I think the important time frame to do this would be after the new superintendent is hired. But that's my personal opinion.
No, I thank you, and I agree with Clay. I think that if the committee decides to move forward with this, in order to not waste taxpayer dollars and actually be diligent and thoughtful in the process, it should be linked to the formal superintendent, and it should be a metric in which they're engaged in it, and that it's a deliverable for that individual, depending on what the outcome is. Yes, sir.
If you're inclined to go in that direction, perhaps now is the time to search out grant money that could fund this, so we wouldn't have to dip into the budget.
I think that the only way that we could guarantee that we would be able to deliver it in next year would be to add $100,000 to the budget.
I think the last study, and again, it was a very controversial study, was paid for through some sort of grant. I don't recall the details.
Understood. I would love to find an alternative source to pay for it. I'm just saying that in order to guarantee that we're able to conduct it, you should probably I would recommend that if we decide to go that path, we put a line item in the budget, and then if it's not needed, it's not needed. So from the committee standpoint, I know you had the packet. I don't think that you need to make a decision tonight. We do have a number of meetings where we can still adjust the budget. We cannot adjust it after March 24th. So if there's committee members who need time to review the packet and the offerings and to think about what type of gains the district can get out of this investment, and you have to look at it as an investment, then I would recommend that we put this on the agenda for the 25th to deliberate and vote it then. Linda?
Question. I know that you, Jane, you worked off the list that was given to you by, I believe,
Senator Morgan.
Okay, thank you. They're from Tampa, Florida. I mean, are there any agencies that are closer that would be able to do the work that, you know, I mean, I understand that, believe it or not, that NESDEC, they do stuff like that too. I just don't know if they'd be more reasonable and more appropriate because they're New England based. So
There's an email in your packet from NESDEC related to it, and they didn't give us costs yet.
Okay.
But if you wanted to pursue that, we could pursue.
I mean, if we're going to have a little bit of time, like you said, till March, that maybe look maybe at another.
Like I said.
I would like to read this.
Agreed. George?
I have a copy of the 1994 study. It's a very controversial.
Okay. I will.
I'd be willing to give it to Donna, and she could make copies.
Actually, that would be excellent if you would. That way the committee can then get copies of it, and we can then look it over as well. Thank you, sir.
I have a question for George. Was it controversial after it came out, or was it controversial that the district was doing it?
I think there was some disappointment in their methodologies,
Okay.
and, you know, it was, you know, no, I'm not going to get into it.
Okay, but it would be good to see.
Why don't we get a copy of it,
Yeah.
and let's take a look at it. And then, unless any committee members object, let's put this on the agenda for the 25th
Agreed.
and take it up.
It seemed very superficial to me.
Thank you, sir. All right, so that closes that out. This brings us to letter F, fiscal year 21 budget, adjustments to the fiscal year budget. I keep reading here. Jane, if you will, please.
Okay, so you have a revised budget update number 3. And these are my recommended adjustments in response to your request for a list of reductions totaling $1.2 million. Do you want me to go through them?
Actually, so I think it would make sense, it's a detailed list, if Jane walked us through it, and then the committee members can ask questions as to the decision process and the deliberation process, or audience members as well. I do want to keep this debate open. I don't want to shut it off, so, but I also want to be sensitive to time. So what I would like to recommend is that we will discuss each item as long as the public has had a chance to deliberate and discuss on it. I think that's great, but when it moves to the committee to the vote, that discussion portion during the vote is going to be committee members only. So if you have a comment, I would make it while we're discussing it. Yes, sir.
One real quick one, and this is the audible thing. Whoever's shaking, stop, please shaking. All of the microphones are hypersensitive, so even just a little rattle, literally all we hear back here is thump, 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 thump.
Okay.
You can move to another spot.
We will, thank you for pointing that out. I think the audio system is something that we're going to be taking up as well.
Thank you.
Future agenda item. Okay, so Jane, if you will, walk us through where you saw the decisions you made.
Well, number 1, it's related to the change with the governor's budget. So compared to the budget we had in the fall, there was an increase of revenue for $25,550. So that's line 1, and the chart above just explains that. So you'll notice in that chart above that there was an increase in excess special ed cost reimbursement, an increase in transportation categorical aid, and again, this is from the governor's budget to the budget that the RIDE estimates we had in November, but a decrease in private school transportation offset. So again, the overall net change is $25,550. The request for the list included to decrease the fund balance to 2.5%. So by decreasing the fund balance to 2.5%, that is $280,168.93. The next is we have a grant for Richmond DEM that the grant is, if we get it, would give us $400,000, well, $500,000, but we would have to spend $100,000. So my proposal here is to take that out of capital, the $100,000, that would be our portion, and decrease the fund balance by another $100,000 if we were to receive the grant. If we don't receive the grant, then we wouldn't do that. So that is really, the total of that is line 8. And then other things through, in the next one would be healthcare. Actually, I'm going to skip a little bit down to line 15. So Susan and myself met with WB Community Health, and we looked at the healthcare cost based on how we're trending this year and based on a rebate we got for pharmacy. He is now recommending that we could reduce by 1.5%. So we were predicting an 8% increase. Now what we would do overall would have a 6.5% increase. So that reduction totals $72,000. And we do feel comfortable with that. For the rest of these cuts, I wanted to let you know that I had met with the leadership team, and we met all together and discussed potential cuts, and then I individually met with each principal, and that's really where the rest of these cuts come from. So for lines 9, 10, and 11, those are all from the capital, and it's eliminating the sander, reducing roof repairs. None of these cuts are easy. None of these cuts are going to allow us to really give the type of service that we give now, but being challenged to make these cuts, this is what we came up with.
Thank you. Bill?
My concern I have with the roof repairs, have we had a professional give us, what it's going to cost us a year from now or 2 years from now if we don't do it now? I have confidence in the principals for teaching and learning, but I don't have a lot of confidence in principals to tell us whether a roof is going to cost us an additional $10,000 more a year from now than it is now. And I appreciate the fact that everybody's out here doing what we ask them to do. These are just things that I have to ask, because when you start, fudging on maintenance, it usually comes back to bite you someplace down the line. So that's my concern on the roofs. So
we have had a professional come out and look at the roofs, and this, the original amount was a Band-Aid to get us further down into the 5-year plan. The roof replacement at the Career and Technical Center is, basically they're saying it's going to be $1.3 million to replace that roof. But the original $30,000 would get us far enough along to be able to extend the useful life of the roof. The same with the high school, that was much higher than 1.3 million, but I honestly don't remember the exact figure. But again, the original amount was suggested by the professional to get us further along in the process too.
So these amounts for capital, I received these from our Director of Building and Grounds and from Susan.
Thank you. Lisa?
Would you be amenable to, now that Jane's given a brief overview, of structuring this the way we did in the past, where so that each conversation can be as impactful as possible, to just make a motion on an item, or then it can be opened up for discussion, and then within that moment, we could then create a vote to either approve or not approve it?
Agreed. I think that'll help moving forward. I just wanted to get a brief overview, like a holistic view.
I feel like people are ready to get into it.
I think so too. So in terms of voting, I do not think that we need to vote each line item in there. We just vote the line that it goes to. And Sue, so just correct me if I'm wrong, the lines, the shaded lines, are those actual UCOA lines?
Those are subtotals.
Subtotals, just, but they would apply to a UCOA line?
They would apply to us, yeah, basically.
Okay, so in terms of that, okay.
To an object code, not to actually the account number.
Except that we made a change like here. You can't go by that.
No, it has to be adjusted.
It may be adjusted.
Yep, yep, understood.
So,
Okay.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
you're implying 17 through 34, we should only do as 35, or we should individually do 17, 18.
I think Craig is correct,
Yeah,
because
so-
there could be items within that.
Well, that section has to be, so if it's adjusted from it, it has to be done by line. If there's no adjustment to it, it effectively falls kind of like a consent line item, so, but if there's going to be an adjustment, it has to be recalculated anyway, so we would go line by line. Right? Does that make sense?
And I do have one more question, or two. Jane, line 50, eliminate Odyssey. Can you just elaborate, is that just the cost of Odyssey, or a portion of the cost, or is that Odyssey?
That is the cost of Odyssey.
But there's still going to be no more Odyssey?
That's why we need to just start.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think you start to understand. So I would very much entertain motions, start moving through the list. Yes, Lisa?
Make a motion to reduce the budget by $25,550 for an increase on state aid. Is that what we're doing?
So moved.
Motion and a second to reduce the budget $25,550. Discussion. Yes, sir.
So this one confuses me, because if they're sending a bigger check, that's in revenue, right?
It is.
So-
Ultimately, it's decreasing the bottom line of the budget.
Right.
Right.
But it is increasing the revenue.
So we're really voting to accept the money the governor's sending us?
Correct.
Okay, fair enough.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it is.
All right, any further discussion? Those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you.
I make a motion to decrease the fund balance by $100,000 to cover Charahoe's share of the DEM grant, if applicable.
So moved.
All right, motion and a second to decrease the budget by $100,000, the fund balance by $100,000. Discussion. Those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Keep going.
I have a procedural question. So when we're, for $100,000 from the operating expense, we're transferring out and then transferring in, do I need to make those two separate votes, or no? Can I make that, do we even vote on that?
If you voted on line 8, that is taking care of everything, line 5, 6, and 7.
Okay. So I make a motion to decrease the fund balance by another $100,000 in anticipation of transferring out of the operating budget.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
That first $100,000, was that associated with line 4, or was that associated with line 8?
No, that was line 5, so did I already do that?
Yeah, you haven't done 4.
Thanks. And now I'm skipping 4 for now.
Yeah, I know that.
So,
Okay.
so you're withdrawing your
Then I
motion?
withdraw my motion, yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
Clay, did you have a?
No.
Yeah, okay, gotcha, thank you. Okay, yes,
I make a motion to reduce the budget by $8,000 and the elimination of a sander.
So moved.
discussion? Those in favor? It's unanimous.
Bill.
Catherine,
Make a motion to reduce the budget by $10,000 for the reduction of the CTC roof repairs.
So moved.
all right, motion and a second to reduce the budget, $10,000 for CTC roof repairs. Any discussion? Those in favor? All right, that's unanimous as well.
I make a motion to reduce the budget by $10,000 for the high school roof repairs.
So moved.
Discussion on high school roof repair reduction, $10,000? No? Those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Yes, Catherine.
I make a motion to reduce the budgeted amount for the healthcare by 1.5% or $72,000.
So moved.
Motion and a second to reduce healthcare to 6.5%. Any discussion? Those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Catherine.
I make a motion to reduce the budget by $79,382.09 to eliminate a maintenance person, salary and benefits, not filling a vacant position.
So moved.
Discussion. I know I didn't give you a crack at it, so I will allow public participation in this. Committee members, any discussion on it? Tom?
I just kind of reiterate Mr. Day's point. We're not maintaining these buildings. These buildings aren't getting any younger. We're talking about aging elementary schools. I have a, out of really all that's there, support staff wise, that's something that I do have concerns about going forward. We essentially would be having 4 maintenance and grounds personnel covering an entire campus and 4 elementary schools. So there's definitely some concern there on my end.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Yes, sir.
Could we just ask the people identify themselves?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm Tom Perney. I'm Education Support Professional President in the district here.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thank you.
Bill?
I completely agree with Tom, but as an abundance of trying to get a budget passed, I'm going to vote for it. But I completely, wholeheartedly agree with the fact that we can't let these buildings start
Agreed.
getting in worse shape.
Understood.
Just kick them again.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to concur with Bill, and on top of it, what they can't do, we're going to sub out.
We're gonna sub
So
out.
I'm just letting people know that.
Yeah, sub out, yeah.
Further discussion? Those in favor of reducing the budget $79,382.09 by not filling the vacant position, those in favor? Thank you, it's unanimous. Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion to reduce the budget by $46,632.06, eliminate a teaching assistant at the high school.
So moved.
Motion and a second to reduce or eliminate a TA position at the high school. Discussion. Donna?
Okay, I'm assuming that the administration of the high school was okay with this?
They were consulted.
That they were consulted?
Again, I can't, there's no good decisions. It wasn't
There's
that.
no good decisions on
Right.
this. This is begging for problems. Okay. Then I will support it, assuming that it's the right thing, but, for the budget, but it's certainly not the right thing for our high school.
Lisa?
So unlike the other items, Jane, this one does not say we're not filling a vacant position. So are we eliminating the position of an individual?
Yes.
And does that person in any way serve students with special needs?
No.
Do you know what function they serve at the high school?
My understanding is they do hall security and they do copying for teachers.
That I support the motion.
Good questions. Additional discussion? Those in favor of the motion? Thank you, it's unanimous. Yeah.
I make a motion to reduce the budget by $15,029.26, reduce business, 0.2 FTE at the high school.
So moved.
All right, thank you. Motion and a second to reduce the budget $15,029.26 by reducing business at the high school by 0.2 FTE. Discussion? Did you want? Jane?
For these high school positions, just so that you understand the implication, what will happen for business, for example, will be some of the electives, because I know there was concerns about class sizes and enrollment, but some of the electives would not be able to be offered every year. So we will have to rotate some electives now to be able to make this reduction. So that would just be the implication.
Further discussion? Those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous. Keep it going.
I make a motion to reduce the budget by $29,869.84. Reduce PE health at the high school by 0.2 FTE.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Discussion on this? Those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous. Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion to reduce the budget by $13,335.80. Eliminate a new position, 0.2 FTE, high school English.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Discussion. Jane?
For this position, the impact could be larger class sizes, and also, or the rotation of electives.
Further discussion? Those in favor of the motion? Thank you, it's unanimous.
I make a motion to reduce the budget by $11,470.11. Eliminate 0.2 FTE math at the high school.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Discussion.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
math resource, is that going to RTI or?
I'm sorry,
No,
that's not math
it's line
resource.
25.
Yeah.
Oh, you jumped to 25.
I
I'm
did.
sorry. I
That's
missed
okay.
that.
Line 25, okay.
She's being selective.
She's being selective. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion? That's unanimous. Thank you. Lisa?
Line 27, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $98,661.73 by eliminating a world language position, 1.0 FTE.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to reduce the budget $98,661.73. Discussion. Yes, sir. And then, I'm sorry.
Jane, what
then you.
position is that, please?
That's an elementary world language teacher. We have 3 of those positions. What the result would be is that right now the students receive elementary world language twice a week for 35 minutes each. And one of those times is direct instruction. The other time is during morning meeting where they co-teach with the teacher. We would have to eliminate that second time.
And
So
this
they
was
would.
just- And this was just highlighted in the newspaper, correct?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess something we gotta cut.
Donna?
This is painful, because one of the things that we've always said, all the budget hearings that I've ever participated on for this district has been, we don't want to cut programs, we don't want to hurt staff, we don't want to hurt the momentum that we've been working on for so long. And to me, this is just watering down our programs. So, anyway, I have difficulty with this.
Understood. Thank you for your comment. Yes, ma'am.
So, as an educator, I too struggle with this decision. What I'm finding resolve in is that we're not eliminating the program or eliminating world language from any student. It's a reduction in service. The teachers will have to restructure, but unlike other positions where we might actually eliminate something in totality, there will be no student that does not receive world language as a result of this cut. And so while they're all hard, that's part of why I felt like I could lean into this. Secondarily, we are not cutting at the high school level or the middle school level, where proficiency really needs to be established for students as they're getting ready for college, right? If we had to cut somewhere, right, elementary, although language acquisition is easier then, but really we need to make sure our students are proficient middle school, high school. So the fact that it's an elementary position and no child will be eliminated is kind of why I'm going to support it, even though it's hard.
Understood. Thank you. Further discussion? Those in favor of the motion? It was unanimous.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
my understanding that we skipped number 26.
We did.
So I would make a motion that we reduce the budget by $78,052.01. Eliminate kindergarten Charleston salary and benefits because of enrollment. Enrollment is the key thing for me. If the enrollment doesn't justify it, then we have to bite the bullet and do it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second? It was David. Jane?
So the principal of Charlestown did bring this cut forward. The enrollment now doesn't meet it. The problem is when we do kindergarten registration, we don't necessarily have all the parents that come forward, and they still end up coming in the summer. So as of right now, and from projections that she received in speaking with the town, it's a gamble. But that, so just to clarify, so we don't know, we'll never know the enrollment in kindergarten typically until the summer.
And my answer to that is that we will find the money in the budget next year if we have to. But as an abundance of caution, to get this budget down so it'll be favorable to the towns, I think is a vote we have to approve.
Understood. Sheila? Actually, could you stand? Name and town, please? Well, you weren't at the time I said that.
Actually, we're gonna go with the mic. Okay.
I just want to know, at what number would we add? If we cut this for Charlestown, and then the enrollment does go up over the summer, what number are we looking at to add it back in to find the money? What number of students per class? Just because I don't want to go backwards.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean,
going backwards.
You know what I mean? That to me feels like going backwards in the fight for class size. And right here, you know, that's, we've fought long and hard to get our class sizes down, and now we're taking a chance. And I want to know, are we really going back to it being 25 kindergartners in a class, possibly? Because that, I'm going to bark about really loud, and I will get the rest of my friends to bark, too. So,
I can't tell you a number because it depends across in all the grade levels in all the schools what the enrollment is. This year, I could tell you in Ashaway, we have 24 and 24 in kindergarten. So it potentially, yes, it could be that high.
Yeah.
That's just something that
Robin Whitensey. That's just something that, reiterating what Sheila stated, that we fought so hard for.
Yeah.
Is to try to, and we had an agreement with Mr. Ritchie, to really try to keep them around that 23 number and for that to be brought to our attention. So I just feel like we're setting ourselves up for failure by cutting that it doesn't do justice to those students at Charlestown.
I understand your position, and for years you've been very clear on it. I do want to reiterate that moving from school to school, we did create a policy that made it much easier to do in order to balance out just kind of the flavor of the school for the parents' choice, but also if there was a concern and they wanted to move for class size as well. So just to comment on that. Lisa had her hand up first, and then Craig.
So I put this one forward in order to Catherine because I'm not ready to support it just yet. I feel like there's more money to be found before we get to this point. I think everything that Robin and Sheila said, I would echo. And I would add to that I believe with the last set of reductions that we asked, if I remember correctly, the principal of Charleston also offered up the elimination of a TA from her school. Right. She went back and looked and said, oh, we can help out, we can kick in, we can do better. And she's already offered that, and we accepted that. I feel like Charleston has done their part at this time, and I'm not ready to support eliminating a kindergarten from that school until it's absolutely necessary.
Craig.
After we're done with this one, I'm gonna go back to lines 17 and 18. And I'll make the motions for those. But, in reference to this, I'm looking at the bottom line. We were given in not so polite terms that we gotta eliminate so much, period. I really don't wanna do any of this either, Donna. I really don't.
Specific to this position, though.
I made my statement.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate making the statement. Bill?
The discussion I'm hearing on this just reinforces what I said earlier about a management study.
It does. Frank, if you...
Yes, Chair.
I'm sorry, could you stand and name it down?
Sure. I'm Hopkins, Franklinville.
Thank you.
On this item, this pertains to Charlestown, but I just want to bring to the committee's attention, the last 2 years, Charlestown's lost probably about 70 to 80 students in the last 2 years. The other member towns have to pick up the slack in the operational costs, and our bill goes up. So when you label something as enrollment, and you're looking to eliminate something, you've got a decrease, a substantial decrease in students in Charlestown. Again, in the last 2 years that I've seen, it's substantial.
So,
1 year was like 60-something, the other, this past fiscal year, 20-something.
Let me ask.
So I'm just pointing out that there was a lot of students that were,
That's 13 grades, Frank.
So,
No, I know.
actually, I had to
understand
stop.
that. I understand that, but I just want to bring to the attention, everybody's saying, school size, class size, but there is a trend here, and I wanted to bring that to the board's attention.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay.
Ms. Daly.
Just an overall from last year to next year projected, Charlestown will have a decrease of 17 students, Richmond will have a decrease of 5, and Hopkinton will have an increase of 24.
Chair, Ms. Daly needs to present the data on the kindergarten.
Yes.
I understand. So
Just
that was going to be my
same
follow-up
number
question,
thing
which
here,
is,
kindergarten.
what's the current kindergarten enrollment for Charlestown? With the elimination of this position? How many classes, right, based on what we know today? You can't, I know you can't.
I don't know right now.
Oh, so we have, I'm sorry, yes.
The principal with the projections that she received feels that reducing it will be manageable. So, I'm not sure of the number. It seems to me in the 20 or below is what she, thank you, Joe. What did you, 25. Joe is there?
She said about 25 right now that she can find.
Total. But we know that's not anywhere accurate in terms of just 25 students in kindergarten. So just in the initial outreach, we just don't have the numbers. It's too early. We haven't done kindergarten registration yet. That's in mid-March.
When is, what's the number of kindergarten teachers that this would leave at Charlestown?
2.
So we know of 25 so far with 2 teachers.
13.
Right, so you're looking at, you would need an enrollment of, okay.
It's very manageable, but again,
Understood.
it's not the trend, so it's too early to know.
Just one quick thing. I know for a fact there are 6 new kindergartners because they're on the bus that I'm on in Charleston. I can testify to that this year.
So let me ask a follow-up question. When does enrollment open?
We have kindergarten registration on March 20th and 21st. I'm going to just double check my calendar. And we also do it during Artisy, so this next month will be our formal kindergarten registration. But again, parents, we encourage as many parents as possible to register during that time. However, there are still parents that are registering in the summer because they may just move in to a community. So we we watch it very closely all summer long. The class size.
And when do we need to make notification if this position's eliminated?
Before June 1st.
Okay. So, a lot of difficult decision-making on this.
It's a gamble.
It is a gamble. So it is eliminating the position. We have until the 24th to revisit it if new information comes in and the enrollment was to spike within those couple of days. Outside of that, if we vote it out, we would just be taking a risk in terms of class size. Rob?
Right, we just ask that we are advised of how that enrollment goes in Charlestown, so we can just keep an eye on that as a general public.
Absolutely. I think that if the decision is to eliminate the position, then we should probably revisit this for sure on March 24th after the enrollment begins. But likewise, the converse is true. If it's decided to keep, we should revisit it on the 24th as well. Jane?
In the past, I mean, the enrollment for elementary is brought to school committee a few times in the summertime as it changes. So the school committee will be updated on the enrollment for kindergarten. Last year, we added a Richmond kindergarten in August because of class size. So we always wait if we can.
Okay. Craig?
And when do we finalize the enrollment by?
Enrollment.
October 1st, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion on this by the committee? All right, so we're clear. The motion and second is to reduce the budget $78,052.01 for the elimination of kindergarten teacher at Charlestown. Those in favor of the motion? Yeah, I know. Thank you. Recorded.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Do the-
Opposed? Thank you. The motion passes. Craig, you did mention that you wanted to revisit line 17.
Well, we can revisit 24 also. I'm concerned on the total dollar value at the end of this. If we start, I mean, I realize we have another month.
Correct.
So I make a motion, line 24, reduce the budget by $15,546.28 to reduce the math resource at the high school by .2 FTE salary and benefits.
Second.
Motion and a second to reduce the budget $15,546.26. Discussion, Catherine.
Jane, this is someone to help high school children with math, correct?
Yes.
And do you find that this is with math, that's the piece the math that they have to pass in order to get credit, if that makes sense. So these aren't kids who are necessarily taking trigonometry, and you may not know the answer, trigonometry students.
No, you're
these
right
are-
in what you first said. I mean, these are in the core classes like Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, courses that they need to pass.
That they have to pass.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lisa?
So we've already eliminated a math teacher. So to also reduce a math resource, it is, I think it's counterindicated to what we're trying to do. And a resource teacher, rather than teaching one course, right, can reach, I don't know, 100 students, right, maybe more, in terms of how many times they may or may not see them. It's $15,000, and all math is necessary math, right? Whether it's trigonometry or you're taking math for computer science and coding, all math is necessary for what you need to do, and it's at the high school level, again, right before we're sending our students out into either academics or the workplace or the military. Reducing a specific course, a 0.2, okay. Rotating an elective, fine. But math resource, I'm very uncomfortable with that, so I cannot support it.
Understood. Craig?
Chair, if I understand the process right, we can take out of the budget, but then we can always put back into the budget. Am I correct? Thank you.
Understood. No committee members. Tom, did you have a
Yeah, I
comment?
just want to explain it, and this kind of goes back to, I think, Kevin's point here, these are at-risk students who are going to struggle completing portfolio assignments, getting their credits in line and stuff. I work with those students daily within my building, but obviously in the high school, that's a good, bridge and step program for them to use and help be successful and earn those credits. Out of everything here, especially academically, I think that's an important piece, and I feel like we'd be letting down some of our most at-risk kids in the district. So,
Thank you for your comment. Ms. Grover?
I just think, echoing Lisa, that you get a lot of bang for your buck for this 15 grand. And I think in terms of what you're trying to reduce, I know we're trying to go in a downward trend, but I just think here, what you're going to end up saving does not justify the damage that you can be doing for kids. It really makes a big difference to have those liaisons, those math extra helpers, especially at the high school level. This is it. This is the last time we have them in the grid, to have them slip through because they didn't get past the algebra class, which means they didn't get the number on the SATs that they need to get in order to get to college if they want to go to college, or not, just to have the math to go to the trade school they want to go to. 15 grand, let it sit.
Understood. Further discussion by the committee? Yes, sir.
I know that, Jane, you met with people to make every one of these decisions. So are there other resource people? How many positions like that are there?
There are other math, this is just a 0.2 of a math resource, and whoops, sorry, sir. Sorry about that. That must have been worse than the shaking, sorry. So at the high school, right now, we have 1.8 FTE for math resource. So this would provide 1.6 FTE.
Okay. Further discussion by the committee, or? All right. Then, with respect to the motion to reduce the budget $15,546.28, reduce the math resource by 0.2 FTE, Those in favor? 6. Opposed? 5. Motion passes.
Chair, I make a motion to eliminate the budget by $53,602.90 to eliminate a TA at Richmond Elementary salary and benefits, not filling a vacant position.
Which number?
17.
Thank you.
Okay, motion and a second to eliminate a TA at the Richmond Elementary School by not filling a vacant position, reducing the budget $53,602.90. Discussion, Bill.
I looked at this list, and other than maybe eliminating the tuitions, the CCRI, and some little things there isn't anything I want to reduce. But we directed, as a committee, we voted the last meeting to tell Jane to come back with these cuts. And I think the consensus was of the members of this committee, if we wanted the budget passed, that we had to make the cuts. I think Jane and Sue and everyone else who was involved in this feels as much heartbreak and stress that we do. But the fact of the matter is that if we wanted the budget to pass, it's got to pass in all 3 towns. And we've been put on notice by 2 of the towns that they don't have enough votes in Charleston to carry this budget. So if we want this budget to pass, we got to dig in and do the right thing, because we're going to be here till midnight the way we're going.
Understood.
But I don't have a problem. I don't have to get up and go to work tomorrow like some people probably do. So that's my spiel here.
Thank you. Robin,
Can I just comment on that?
on the topic that we're voting on? Yes, you can.
Mr. Day's topic. Well, yes, we did ask Jane to come back with all of this 1.2 million, whatever that whole figure was. It also is what would need to be eliminated in order to get to that amount. And yes, we do want this budget to pass, but it is also, as I believe we've said before, is up to our residents to pass that. So yes, we want something that's going to pass, but also just because a smaller group of people say they want it down by X amount of dollars, does not mean that everyone feels that way. So I think by cutting staff, that is something that a lot of residents do not want to see happen. And if the budget is cut by, it's cut by $1 million or 900,000, that might be still something that's going to be approved. So please just keep that in
Thank
your
you.
mind while you're making these decisions. It doesn't have to go down that full amount. There are going to be people supportive of it due to what you left.
Understood. Thank you. Lisa.
Sorry.
Sorry. It does, yeah. No, yeah, no, sorry. Yeah.
So, who's there now? Is it a retiree or is it
It's being filled by, it was a resignation, and currently it's being filled by a part-time person working additional hours and a substitute.
is it a special ed?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so, no.
No, it's not.
And their position is, there was another one that was a
This position does work with students, but it's a general education teaching assistant.
They also do recess, lunch, things like that.
Thank you. Further discussion? With respect to the motion to reduce the budget $53,602.90 by not filling a vacant position, those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Abstaining?
Bill, did you vote in favor?
Oh, yeah.
Don, I didn't see Donna. Thank you.
Chair,
So
make
it's
a
just
motion.
Catherine, wait a minute, just Catherine opposed? Thank, oh, Lisa, I'm sorry, okay.
So 9 to
I
2.
can't get them all that.
I know, sorry, we'll go slower on those.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $27,140.03 to eliminate a kindergarten TA at Ashaway, including salary and benefits, due to enrollment.
Second.
Motion and a second to eliminate, or reduce the budget $27,140.03. Discussion. Those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Thank you both. Motion passes. Yes, ma'am.
Can you address line 16, replacing the BMAI with the TA? But I don't want to make a motion to do that.
That's
I want to make.
explained down the bottom.
Huh?
It's explained down
It
here.
was moved to 59.
Wait a minute.
So on the one
We can't do it.
not there.
Okay. 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 Oh, I didn't look at the printout tonight. Okay, sorry, never mind.
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion to eliminate the budget, to reduce the budget by $31,243.80 to eliminate 6 extra summer custodians.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Discussion. Bill?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but these are the people that we hire part-time during the summer. Usually they paint the schools and stuff like that.
Yes.
Again, something that I'm not comfortable with because classrooms won't get painted, but again, I'm sorry.
Understood. Yes.
And just so we're aware, this is something that will not be able to be subbed out either, because there will be a grievable event, grievable part of the contract, so just so we're aware of that will not be something that's able to be subbed out, okay? So if you need classrooms painted and you're contacting private companies, you're not gonna beat a better rate than the 6 people you hire in the summer, so.
Understood. Understood. Further discussion? Those in favor of the motion? Thank you. It's unanimous. Yes, ma'am.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $2,160 to eliminate 1 day per week for the high school extended day program?
Extended school day.
School day.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Discussion. Those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just have a question real quick, sorry,
Yes.
Chair.
No, please.
Jane, will that affect any IEPs as far as we'll be able to still fulfill, that's extended school year, right? No?
No, the extended school day.
Oh, okay.
So it's after school.
It's after school, sorry.
Supervision, yeah.
I would never.
Okay.
Don't you know me yet?
Thank you. Sorry.
Further discussion. Those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Chair, I'd like to ask the superintendent what the impact of reducing the intramural coaches would be on club sports.
That's elementary, right?
It's all schools.
Oh, it's
but
all
they're
schools.
filled.
Does it eliminate the program or just reduce support?
It reduces, it does not eliminate, and it's at all schools, and it's based on actual expenditures and looking at that over the past few years.
Thank you very much. I make a motion to reduce the budget by $2,880.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Discussion. Those in favor? Thank you. It's unanimous.
Chair, I'd like to ask the superintendent to advise regarding the $417 for the Brown Science Prep Advisory. It's a very small amount of money. Is that also an overage?
That's a situation where we just haven't done it the last year or two.
Okay.
So,
I make a motion to reduce the budget by $417 to eliminate the Brown Science Prep Advisor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Those in favor of the motion? Thank you. It's unanimous.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $1,440 to reduce the stipend for the curriculum development science high school and middle school.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Discussion. Those in favor of the motion? Thank you. It's unanimous.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget an additional $1,440 to reduce the PE curriculum revision task force.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Jane?
Impact, just so you know, the impact for both of those curriculum, it just means that the team's smaller of who writes the curriculum, the team of teachers.
Okay. Discussion, further discussion? Those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous.
Chair, I am going to make a motion to reduce the budget by line 56, but I first have a question about line 48, removing the 3 CCRI tuitions. Could you please better kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. From the high school principal, based on students who have declared that they're going to do dual enrollment next year with CCRI, he feels we can reduce that by 3.
So all students who are interested in dual enrollment will be able to continue. This is not a reduction of the program or access to it?
Correct.
Okay. I make a motion to reduce the budget by $123,544.97, totaling the supplies, purchase services, tuitions, and dues.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Craig?
You know,
We'll get,
I've made some reductions here, which I really didn't want to do, basically for political reasons. But I can't accept cutting Artisy. It is the one thing in the whole year that brings Charahoe together.
Chair, I will withdraw my motion, and we'll do it line by line.
Yes, definitely.
So I have to withdraw your second if you agree.
Yeah, withdraw my second.
motion and second are withdrawn.
Okay. Number 36, I recommend reducing the budget by $675 to reduce the band and chorus field trips. Not eliminate, reduce.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second. Discussion? Those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $42,100 to eliminate high school, middle school field trips for the upcoming year.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Eliminates all high school, middle school field trips? Yes.
No,
Oh.
so what this does is we budget for a per student amount based on the new decision from the commissioner. And so this would eliminate that per pupil amount for the middle school and high school. There are still some field trips that are budgeted, for example, going to the Columbus Day Parade for the band, or there's a few chorus trips still scheduled there.
Selected, or there's a select.
But this is the per pupil amount. And we're also, it's honestly another gamble where we are hoping that the legislation related to field trips in
Will allow
this,
fundraising.
right.
Thank you.
Committee members? I don't know who was first. Yes, sir. Your name, town?
My name is Frank Hopkins. I'm from Charlestown,
Thank you.
also with the Charahoe Rotary.
Okay.
And I've had the pleasure of serving on the XQ committee. And one of the things that we identified in that group was one of the biggest barriers in these towns is transportation. As we reimagine high school, I think as Mr. McKenzie probably articulated it very well on our ladder to learning autonomy, we're trying to get the kids out into the business communities, into experiences that give them a leg up in their competition with other students as they go forward. By eliminating these field trips, you stifle the students' opportunities to experience these programs that we've been working on for the last 7-8 months for a $500,000 grant, and essentially taking a significant piece of it away from these students. I just want to share that with you.
Thanks, sir. Rich?
Rich Hussein, Richmond. And this is going to tag right on to what this gentleman just said. the first time that I got here to the first budget, I went through and I looked, and I saw we're paying teachers, nothing against them, to travel. And I added up the numbers, $30,000 a year to pay for teachers or whomever, administrators to travel. 30 grand. You can take that 30 grand and put it right back into the kids for their field trips. And guess what? Nothing gets lost.
Yeah.
$30,000 to pay a teacher to go to whatever it is, advancements in education or whatever. Some of these teachers are making 100 grand a year. They can afford to pay that 20 bucks in gas instead of the school committee shelling out 30 grand as a total. Take that money and put it back to the kids.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Sue?
Unless it's contractual and it's in the school thing.
It is. So
We got it, thank you.
So basically what happens, it's mileage. So if we have itinerant teachers that travel from school to school, we're required, or support staff, we're required to pay their mileage. It's a law. You have to, and there's actually a dollar amount set by the government that we are required to pay. I understand it, but it's not something that we have any control over. There are staff who don't put in for it, but there are staff who have the right to put in for it and do put in for it.
Thank you. Lisa?
So, back to the item, the motion on the floor, the XQ ladder to learning is absolutely impressive. And as someone who did not grow up in Charahoe, the opportunity for our students to experience diversity, economic diversity, cultural diversity, geographic diversity means a lot to me personally. My understanding was that the XQ grant would be able to continue funding those exact trips, and that this money is separate and apart from that. If I'm incorrect, please let me know, because I'll have to alter my vote. But my understanding from Mr. McKenzie is that money, it has its own bucket.
So this money was, we've never budgeted for this in the past. We always budgeted a per pupil cost for elementary schools. Other than that, we ask parents to help with field trips, and the district does pay for students who cannot afford it. With the legislation, we would be reverting back to that. It would be, we still have STEM competition field trips, they're still in the budget. These are the per pupil costs for the field trips that we no longer could ask for. Like if they wanted to go to Salem or something like that. That's what this money entails at both the elementary and the high school.
That was my understanding.
I'm sorry, middle school, elementary we didn't touch.
Right, no, I know it says that. So that was my understanding. So just to be clear, this does not prevent students from attending, going on the college-bound field trips that we were talking about last week, correct?
I don't believe so. I would have to go back and double check that grant. But I also can say that when we talk about work-based learning and other types of opportunities, quite often we use the vans that we have on campus. So I know what Frank's speaking about, but we do also have vans for when we have smaller trips going to different companies or, and that wouldn't change.
Bill?
We have a student activity fund here at Charahoe, and I really believe that we need to get a legal opinion as to whether we could be using some of this $100,000 plus in the school student activities fund to offset some of the things you're talking about, Lisa, because we don't get this report anymore, but there is over $100,000 in the student activities fund here at Charahoe. Some of it's been raised for this project or that project, but there's also money that's in there from defunct accounts from years ago, and this is sitting there. So I think that we need to have our solicitor find out if we can service the students without violating any context of the student activities fund.
Future agenda items. Further discussion? We have a motion and a second to reduce, I'm sorry, so we have a motion and a second to reduce the budget $42,100 to eliminate high school and middle school field trips. Those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $2,800.02 to reduce the outside facilitator funds for professional development.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous.
So I'm going to intentionally not do number 39. Marat had made it very clear to us that he was very invested in handwriting, and for $954, I don't want to fight him. So if everyone's okay, I'm going to move over that item.
Do you have a comment?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so this will not reduce any students having handwriting books that need it. We did collected data on how many fourth graders would need it this year, and then when we did a reassessment in the fall before we passed out those books, it was much less than what teachers thought would happen in the spring. So we have an inventory now of fourth grade books for next year, and this will not reduce any students having these books.
Donna, you captured that in the minutes from Marat?
Sorry, I don't know how to.
Got that?
I'll put it in.
Okay. I make a motion to reduce the budget for $954 to reduce the Zaner Belozer handwriting textbooks.
Thank you. Motion and second. Discussion. Those in favor of the motion? Thank you. It's unanimous.
Jane, could you please explain, Chair, could Jane please explain the impact of the removal of the incubator, renewal, and professional development funds?
Yes.
Please.
Yes, for incubator, the curriculum is $5,000 a year that we have to pay an annual fee, and then it also requires that the teacher goes to annual professional development, and that's $2,500. We've really worked to make this program successful for the last few years. Unfortunately, this year the enrollment's 4 students in the class. The principal feels that, there are maybe other opportunities and ways that we can still deliver an incubator type experience, but it might not be the incubator program and curriculum, and it's based on enrollment. But they do feel that there might be other ways to still keep components of it going.
I make a motion to reduce the budget by $7,500.
Thank you. Motion and second. Discussion. Donna.
I hope that they make every effort to keep that momentum going, because that goes along with what, is it Frank from Charlestown? Frank?
Frank.
Okay. This is where we're going. We're trying to get these kids' minds around careers and opportunity and all of that. This has been such a wonderful thing that Charahoe has done for the last 5 or 6 years anyway, to get this whole idea of thinking beyond high school in their heads. And I would hope that that would continue for the sake, I really hate to take out the $7,500 for it, even if the enrollment is so low. Anyway, so I hope that, I'm really recommending that it continue momentum, and even if she doesn't go to the conference or the PD, she's got a lot of information that she can share, so I hope the program continues.
Yes, sir.
Again, Frank Hopkins. This program, Barry and Mrs. Scanapiaco came to the Charahoe Rotary and Community 2000 about 3 or 4 years ago and asked for funding to assist them to evaluate the curriculum. The 2 groups, in collaboration, donated $15,000 to the school to set up this curriculum. And we had a number of us volunteered as mentors on this program. And again, I go back to what we're trying to do with the school and reimagining what high school could be for these students and having these experiences. And if the enrollment's fallen off, maybe we need to do a little more to promote it. We do so well with Skills USA.
Right.
These are the
Right.
kids that are going to get these kind of experiences.
Right.
We bring in business leaders from all over the communities to participate with this particular curriculum. It's a great program. And it might need a little more time to get off its feet, but we've had some great, we had some wonderful end of semester presentations here with Shark Tank-like group,
nice.
and it was well received. We got a lot of good publicity for the school. It establishes us, we're one of the few, if not the only, school in the state that has this incubator program. For $7,500, I think it's worth keeping it around.
I agree.
I just want to say, I think the word of the evening is backwards, and that to me is backwards. Eliminating this is backwards, and I will vote against it, so.
Understood. Thank you. Further discussion? Those in favor of the motion to reduce the budget $7,500 to remove the incubator program?
It's all right.
Did you capture everybody?
No, I want to.
Hands up, please.
Opposed. I'm,
You need opposed.
Opposed? That's the rest of this. Ms. McAllister. Don Everson. Thank you. Yep. Motion passes.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $2,000 to reduce the Art Alliance supplies.
Second.
Motion and a second to reduce Art Alliance supplies, $2,000. Any discussion? Those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
I make a motion to reduce the budget by $11,474.92 at the recommendation of Director Off to reduce all CTC supply accounts.
second.
Motion and a second. Discussion, Bill.
This kind of ties in with the other two behind it. Is there any possibility that we could fund some of this through the Perkins grant?
That's what he's going to try to do.
Okay, because
so
we, you know, we're not supposed to be making money, but we are making money off of the students that we're bringing out of district to the VOTEC, and I would hate to see any of these programs in the VOTEC impacted.
Understood. Rich.
I have to leave because I haven't been home yet and I left at 7 this morning. This is all low-hanging fruit. It's $100,000 if you do the math. From line 36 to 55, it's 100,000, 119. Low-hanging fruit. And if you, I'll tell you right now, if you eliminate Artisy, I personally will canvass every single town and knock this budget right back down to the ground zero. If you eliminate Artisy, you will see the wrong side of me because Artisy is the heart of the school right here, in the heart of Chariho. I have to go home, but know this. This is low-hanging fruit. To get rid of the incubator program, that's the wrong direction, just like you said. And I have to go.
Jane? No? No comment. Okay. Further discussion? All right.
Which one are we on?
We are on 42, so we have a motion and a second. Sorry, I'm getting feedback. We have a motion and a second to reduce the budget $11,474.92. Reduce all CTC supply accounts. Those in favor of the motion? Thank you. It's unanimous.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget $2,700 to eliminate the welding speed drill.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Eliminate the welding speed drill for $2,700. Discussion. Those in favor of the motion? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Chair, I make a motion to eliminate the budget by $1,700 to eliminate the auto portable lift.
Second.
Discussion on this line item? Those in favor? It's unanimous.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $3,700 to eliminate the hydroponics system.
Second.
Discussion on hydroponics? No? Nothing? All right, those in favor of the motion? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $1,400 to reduce the High School Headmasters Association annual membership dues.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Yes, sir.
Headmaster? I'm sorry, I just had a comment, that's all.
Thank you. Further discussion? No? Those in favor of the motion? All right, it's unanimous.
Chair, I'd like the superintendent to explain the impact of eliminating the Leadership Academy.
The Leadership Academy is one of our ways that we recognize our teachers and we try to build their capacity as leaders. This would impact 12 positions where they earn a stipend of $1,000 each. And the people in the teachers in the Leadership Academy provide professional development to their fellow teachers throughout the school year.
And who recommended this reduction?
I did, because nowhere else to get the money from, to be quite honest.
So I won't be putting this motion forward, so for the committee to know. And we already reduced outside facilitator funding, so certainly then in-house facilitator and professional development is going to be necessary.
Right.
So, this is another one where I'm confused. Is this for administrators?
No, this is teachers.
Oh,
It's a $1,000 stipend per teacher that they earn over the course of the year.
But they have that contractually regardless of what we cut here or not cut here, right?
No, it's not contractual,
It's not, okay, got it.
There's feedback, I don't know. It's not contractual, it's part of our recognition for educators program that we started quite a few years ago.
Craig?
And what's that money used for? Is it just a bonus, goes in their pocket, or they have to?
It's a position they apply for, they have to, it's competitive, they have to interview for it, and the position provides professional development to their fellow teachers during the professional development day, during early release day throughout the school year, as needed at the building. They typically, there's a different theme each year that they might lead on. This particular year, the topic is our new assessment platform, Performance Matters, and they have facilitated professional development that throughout the year, and it also served as coaches in the building as teachers roll that out.
We have a follow-up to that. So by eliminating this, all those things will not happen.
Correct.
Ms. McCallum.
And these are teachers who excel in an area, so they would be coming back to teach their college.
It's on top of their regular job. It's not, they're not. I didn't do it. It's in addition to their teaching position. This would be work that they do in terms of the planning and the development outside of the school day. And that's what they earn the stipend for.
Bill?
But my understanding is it's a stipend that goes into their pocket. It's just like a stipend for a coach or
Right.
or someone else, so it's something that they could do without the stipend if they chose to.
If we eliminate it, yes, they wouldn't receive their stipend.
Okay. Yep.
I'll move to vote on this issue.
There's, we don't have a motion on the floor, but if.
I'll make a motion.
No, she.
I'll second it.
Oh, no, she asked for clarification.
No, she asked for
Yes,
clarification.
I got this.
So George, you making a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to eliminate the Leadership Academy with $12,000.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to reduce budget $12,000 to eliminate the Leadership Academy. Discussion? Yes, ma'am.
So, am I misunderstanding that, so basically by eliminating this, you're eliminating a program that is competitive, your best go forward and bring people along with them to become better, basically, for $12,000. Seriously, do we have to, like, just because it's on the paper, does not mean we have to run through and mindlessly just cut things out, bearing under pressure. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna take a minute. It just takes, you have to think about this. This is a morale thing for your teachers. You're asking your best teachers, it's a program that's existed. Think long and hard before you cut this, and don't feel pressure to do it this minute. You can always do it down the line.
Jane,
You know, one thing I maybe should have said at the beginning, but what the administrative team and the administrators did in identifying this list is one of our goals was to not affect students, I mean, as much as possible. So all of these things are going to affect our programs and what we offer, but what we tried to do is reduce the impact on direct service to students. And so that's why that
This
item's
one,
on the
put on
list.
Okay. Thank you. Donna?
With all due respect, Jane, it does affect the students. There's no question about it. I've watched the professional development, and this is my field, as you know, grow in this district incredibly. And I will totally be against removing this. These teachers that do these extra work, I've seen them in action. And they are excellent mentors, and they deserve every bit of that $1,000 extra money in their pockets for doing a really superior job. This is what made Charahoe what it is today. I'm off my platform, but I will definitely vote against this.
Further discussion? Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, the teachers could still do this.
There's no incentive.
That's correct. You
There's
just
no
removed
compensation.
monetary.
Well, I wouldn't post it, and I wouldn't run it. I wouldn't run that Leadership Academy on a voluntary basis, if that's what you mean. Yeah. I'm not clear. It's something that it's a posting, it's something they apply for. I wouldn't still run a Leadership Academy, just.
I mean, for all the
Yeah.
benefits. I agree with you on the benefits. They should get paid a lot more than $1,000 for doing it probably. It's not enough anyway. But if the money's not there, can we still do the same program and have
Not
the
really.
benefits and look for the teachers that volunteer to do it?
I don't think that'd be fair, quite honestly, to the staff. The point of it is to build a ladder for teachers, and for teachers who might not want to go into administration or who might not want to go into a different position and stay in the classroom, but they still want to build their skills to be able to help others and to lead others. It's a nice way for them to do that and be recognized for that.
I think that the question whether or not it could still happen, I think that I don't know the impact, I'm assuming if the competition portion of it would change dramatically by eliminating it. But Bill?
I have a lot of respect for the teachers here. I'm related to a few of them. But I think that the good teachers, the teachers that are here, has dedicated support for students, will step up for this. And I think that we ought to challenge them to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
You skipped number 4, which is the decrease the fund balance by 2.5%.
We did that.
No, we didn't skip it.
Well, I was just saying,
Ma'am, I'm
you
sorry.
didn't discuss it.
We have a
okay?
motion and a second for the
But
12,000
I
line
wanted to
item.
make a comment. Other people are making comments.
I just
while
like,
I'm
yes, ma'am, I
listening.
just like it to link to this
I
line
am
item.
linking it, if
Okay.
you listen.
I will.
All I'm
Let's get
saying
there.
is you have on here to decrease the fund balance by 2.5%. If you decrease it by another 0.5% and had 2% fund balance, you could spend that money other places. That's all.
Point of order, Chair.
All right. Everybody take a
Actually-
deep breath, relax.
Well, other people are talking
No,
about
no,
things
no.
when they're talking about
I'm going to use the camera. You know how much I hate using the gavel. You've made your point. I understand the position, that there's money elsewhere. It falls in line with the comment that Sheila made in terms of we don't have to go line by line. We can make decisions today as well as in the future. We have a motion and a second. I do want to move this forward, right? So any further discussion on the reduction of the $12,000? Those in favor of the reduction? Opposed?
Yeah, it's a fail.
It failed?
5 in favor, 6 against. Okay.
Motion fails. Okay, thank you.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $16,398 to remove 3 CCRI tuitions under the caveat that it does not impact any students seeking dual enrollment.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion on this item. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is something I've struggled a lot with, okay? As much as we are so proud of our dual enrollment, and yes, this would definitely impact students, it's such a large amount of money for a small group of students. So I would recommend, not that I want to, but eliminate all paying of the CCRI tuition. Just don't pay it. If the parents want to pay it, they can. I just think that when we're talking about eliminating Odyssey and eliminating all these other things and staff and everything else, we're just allowing these small group of students to go and get college credit without having to pay for it. I don't want to see it go away. I think it's a crown jewel of our district that we have dual enrollment, but it still impacts a small number of kids.
Understood. Catherine, I think you're going to make the point.
Yeah, so this reduction wouldn't eliminate what we're offering, which I'm thankful for because my son is looking at dual enrollment for next year, to be perfectly honest. And I will say it's an incentive to those students who have already completed, he's got all of his requirements done by junior year, to keep them engaged in this particular process. So I understand what you're saying, but this will not eliminate the program, so I would support this motion.
Okay, so can I just say one more thing? One more thing,
Yes,
okay, and I promise. Okay, there are maybe other places where the kids can get a scholarship that qualify for dual enrollment. Allow that, maybe the activities fund can provide the kids an opportunity to apply for a scholarship to have their tuition paid for. Why are we worried about CCRI payment? I appreciate that you... No.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Okay, so
Thank you.
I suggest that we look for other ways of funding all CCRI tuition.
Thank you.
Is that an amendment to my motion?
That is an amendment, isn't it?
No.
Yeah, I could. Okay.
Then you put it to bed, right?
Well, so, I'm sorry. Craig, and then Jane, do you want to clarify?
We are required to pay it for those students that want to do dual enrollment, and we still are funding in the budget 7 students. And again, it is based on what we know in terms of the number of students that want to do dual enrollment next year.
This is just
So
projection on the
we had
enrollment
10
side. Right.
initially in the budget, but now that we're getting closer to students registering and telling us how many, back in January, we wouldn't know. So we estimated 10 based on previous years, but now we do know there are 7.
And is it RIDE requiring it?
So, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay, that's all, I just wanted to...
Craig?
I asked at several meetings back, and this is germane to this, why, if it's free tuition, are we budgeting money to pay for something? Are we subsidizing the free tuition?
We're required to do this, is my... Okay. It's a
But
requirement.
it's free.
I'm not saying it's logical. I'm just saying we have a requirement. Bill?
I will, on the committee request, be suggesting our solicitor look into this because I think it is a rip-off by the governor.
Okay. George?
Plus, the Charahoe Act stipulates that we should only be funding K-12 programs.
Excellent point.
You know, it's,
I would recommend that we move forward, that we have a motion and a second, we vote it, follow up with Bill's comment in terms of getting an opinion on this. So, with respect to the motion, to reduce the budget $16,398, remove 3 CCRA tuitions, those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $1,250 to reduce the catering and refreshment line.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. Those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $1,500 to reduce police at sporting events.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. Bill?
I'd like to suggest that we suggest that the athletic director look at this to see if there can't be further reductions. I spend a lot of time over here at sporting events, and I think there are many times where we don't need a police officer here for the lack of participation by spectators. So I'm wondering if there's not a way to reduce that by a little bit more.
Okay. All right. So we have an action to go back and see if that line item can be reduced even further. But we have a motion and a second to reduce it 1,500. Further discussion? Those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $4,086.25 to reduce the supply and awards line for athletics.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. Craig?
So who's gonna take up the slack?
For line item 52, sorry. Reduce supplies, awards, high school athletics. What's the rationale behind it?
This came from the athletic director.
Okay. And it was over budgeted?
No, we asked him to go back and look at all of his lines and see if there was any way that he could cut.
Okay.
So he may have had new jerseys that he's deciding to put out for a year. I don't know exactly which items he's including in this 4,086, but
All right, so
that did come from him.
Okay. Further discussion? Those in favor of the motion? Thank you, it's unanimous.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $375 for maintenance and repairs for the athletics.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Those in favor of the motion? Thank you, it's unanimous.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $1,500 to reduce the officials and the referees in high school athletics.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second, discussion? Those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous, thank you.
Chair, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $4,571.78 to reduce transportation for athletics in high school.
Second.
Discussion on this line item?
So
Yes, ma'am.
is this just extra money that was put into the budget, Jane, that, I mean, we have to transport our teams to different events.
We took that into consideration.
You're able
I
to
mean,
reduce it that
again,
much?
we asked Mike Shields, and we asked every department to see and go back and see
Okay.
if they could find cuts and reductions, and this is what he brought forward.
Could be for playoffs that.
It could be. I mean, we've already made previous cuts in the athletic budget, and I know in those discussions, it was that some of it was budgeted in case we made playoffs for every team, and you
Okay.
don't know that you're always going to do that, although when you look at our recognition and you look at, for example, our wrestling and our indoor track, we seem to be doing
Right.
quite well, but, so I have to trust what he
Okay.
feels that he's comfortable with.
So in the event that we need that money back, we can reduce the fund budget by that.
We're not
money.
gonna, if a team makes a playoff, we're not gonna have them not attend
Yeah.
because we can't
They can hit you.
afford the bus. We will make, we'll find the money. We'll have to transfer from somewhere else. And it might mean that something else doesn't happen, but We will not prevent our players from playing.
Further discussion? Thank you. Those in favor of the motion? Thank you, it's unanimous.
Chair, for my final motion, I would like to move to line 61 and recommend reducing the budget by $723.59 to further reduce outside facilitator fees for professional development.
Motion and a second to reduce the budget $723.59, line item 61. Discussion? Those in favor of the motion? George, can I get your vote?
Oh, yes.
You are in favor? Thank you. It's unanimous.
Chair, because I cannot make a motion for anything that I won't vote in favor for.
And that's everybody else.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Lisa, I
Thank you,
appreciate
Lisa.
it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
This is to add. But we never cut it.
Okay. Okay.
As far as, I would like to understand, well, as far as anybody would like to make additional adjustments based on this list, the committee's more than welcome to bring those up at any time. I do want a clarification from Sue. So when we reduced $100,000 from the fund balance, that was independent of, that's line 8, that was independent of line 4. And so our fund balance currently is still at 3% minus the 100,000, is that my understanding?
Yes.
Okay. That's my understanding. Donna?
Let me find the line item. I don't know if we can do this or not. This is a new recommendation. The amount of money for equipment for the helmets by our football team, as much as I value the need for the safety, I'm not sure if every school in the state has these super duper high-tech helmets that protect the football players from concussions. It is costing us $26,000 every year. So my question is this something that we have to do out of our budget as opposed to having other places and people that can pay for these helmets that cost so much money? Yes.
So for new helmets, there's only $2,300 in the budget. I think some of the money that you're talking about is every single year, the helmets have to be reconditioned.
Right.
And that's a requirement. We have to recondition them on a yearly basis.
What's a requirement is that we made the right decision to purchase these special helmets to protect our football players in the middle school and the high school. That's what we did. That was the right decision. But now, because we've done that, that means we have to pay to have them reconditioned every year.
You were
Yeah.
reconditioning the old helmets also.
Right, it's reconditioning of all helmets.
Well, how much of it is because of the special concussion-free helmets? You don't know, but I mean, that's a lot of money.
It is, but it's probably worth every penny spent, in my opinion.
I would never want to be responsible for a kid getting a concussion because he didn't have, but are
So-
other schools around the state doing this?
I understand your
It's
point.
not
So-
mandatory.
These are not just football helmets either. We have a boys lacrosse team that wear helmets, so, you start looking at it, you're probably talking close to over 100 helmets.
Yeah.
Between the boys lacrosse team and the football team, so it's a pretty cheap way to make sure we don't get sued because we got some inferior helmets out there.
Understood. George?
I'll make a motion to decrease the fund balance to 2%.
2%?
To decrease the fund balance to 2%?
Yes, as opposed to 2.5%.
Understood. We have a motion on table to decrease the fund balance to 2%. Do we have a second? I I will second it for discussion purposes. I want to vote on it. Yes, sir.
I think along the same lines, there's a couple items that we chose not to take out of this because they were a couple items that were particularly important, line 47 and line 50. Those total 16,860. I would rather just see us increase the amount of the decrease to the fund balance by the 16,860. Let that be whatever percentage it is. It's going to be 2.43% or something like that. In other words, we'll still end up with the 1.2 million at the bottom of the sheet tonight. But we'll decrease the fund balance by $297,028.93, allowing us to keep lines 47 and 50 and not remove them, but end with the same 1.2 million.
I understand.
It's not as severe a reduction to the fund balance as what the motion proposes.
It'd be slightly over 2% then. Understood. Does everybody follow that?
Yeah.
Okay. We'd have to have somebody calculate that.
Yeah, somebody's going to have to take a little bit of time to
Yeah.
calculate that one. But
All right, so,
Just philosophically define.
Are you still in discussion on that, or are we talking about?
no, we're not going to stop to calculate it until I have a motion and a second and, a vote on it. So we're discussing it.
Would the motioner consider amending his motion to adjusting the fund balance change to $297,028.93?
I'll withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw my second. Would you like to make a motion?
Chair,
What's-
I'd like to make a motion that we waive our policy and proceed with the meeting past 10 o'clock.
So moved.
Motion and a second to extend this meeting past 10 o'clock.
We have to.
Discussion. Those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Thank you. I know.
Bill,
We're
I
gonna-
can't.
we're gonna
I
move this
reduced that
forward.
line item.
Okay, so to move, I'd like to close out on the budget adjustment so we can get a final number and vote on it tonight. So we are not done addressing the fund balance, and I think that George removed it, withdrew his motion specifically to accommodate David's recommendation, sorry. So I would like a motion.
I move that we adjust the fund balance decrease to $297,028.93 to accommodate keeping lines 47 and 50 untouched. And come with the same balance of 1.2 million.
So we have a motion to reduce the fund, to reduce the fund balance. I don't know the exact percentage, and the number was 297,028. I'm sorry?
297,0289.93.
0.93. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, for purposes of discussion.
Okay, discussion. Yes.
So, as a point of clarification, I don't know that
We made all the recommended cuts.
We didn't.
Or reductions. So, are you taking that into account?
The two that we didn't make were lines 47 and 50.
No, there are.
Yeah, but we did not address line 60, which is 61,000.
So I'm happy with what we've done so far.
Yeah.
But I do want it to be understood that reducing it to the amount just given by Dave isn't gonna necessarily get us to 1.2.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's pointed out, because I was going to have to point that out. So I agree with the recommendation from Dave. I'm supportive of it. But it will not hit that 1.2 million. That is clear at this point. Discussion on this.
Could we get an idea where we take it?
We will. What we would have to do is take a recess so that Sue can take all the adjustments that we've made, give us a final tally, but we would have to close the motion on the floor. So, motion and a second, further discussion. Lisa?
So, along with Catherine, I think what I would like to do is have, close out where we are. I don't know that we need to tap into the fund balance today at this point. We've done a substantial amount of reductions. I'd like to know what that number is, what that impact is, and we have more time we have a motion to adopt tonight, but we still have a public hearing where we have 25 members of each town mandated to come, so we'll get a good cross-section of input from across our towns, not just the people that attend this meeting. And then we have the opportunity to come back after that and then really decide if we want to look at the fund balance or look at additional cuts. So we've done a lot of good work today. And I'd like to actually hear where we are. So I'm going to vote against this at this time only.
Understood. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that. Further discussion? All right, so we have a motion to reduce the fund balance by $297,028.93. Those in favor of the motion? I count 4. Those opposed to the motion? Please hold your hands up so Donna can get that. Well, don't just drop it. You don't have to raise it high. All right, thank you. Motion fails.
Oh, I have one question, then I'll do that.
Okay.
Jane, can you just elaborate for us before I make a motion for a recess, so you could do the math? 58, 59, and 60.
Sure. So, line 58, that relates to line 28. So originally on this list, before today, I had the elimination of the development officer, 0.5 FTE, and then for the adjustment that you got in front of you, I added it back. So that's not a reduction that I'm recommending, and that's because of contractual obligations.
Okay.
So you really don't need to vote on it at all.
Correct.
It kind of wipes itself out. Same with 59. 59 is related to line 16. So let me try to explain that. Essentially, we had a new BMA 1 position at the middle school that was in the budget. And speaking with the principal, we said, all right, well, what happens if we cut that new position? And he felt he really needed a teaching assistant if he was to cut that position. So that's what the 15,077.55 represented, was the difference between those. But then with the change in the development officer, we had to find another around 50,000. So we spoke again and we came back and we said, okay, we will just eliminate the BMA and we will not also hire a TA. So that's why you'll see 59 and 16, again, they wipe each other out, and now we're on the list is line 60, which just simply eliminates the BMA at the middle school and does not then hire a TA in place of that new position. So that is a new position that was recommended for the middle school, and that's on this list to be recommended to be cut.
Lisa?
However, we did not accept that recommendation.
No.
We did not make a motion for that. There
Nope.
was no vote. So at this time, the middle school will retain
Yes.
the BMA 1.
Yes, I was
That-
just trying to
Yes,
explain it.
I want to make sure that
Thank you.
that is understood.
Yep, thank you.
So, Chair?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion for 5-minute recess?
Good job.
You might need 10. You might need.
Or longer, or whatever's necessary.
It's a little
Those in
complicated.
favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Don, do you really have to go? I might get there and get back before you even get there.
Yeah, I'm slow, Lisa, you can, I'll go fast.
First, to find out where we are with respect to the adjustments that we had made this evening. Sue, the floor is yours.
Okay, so between the reductions that you made in previous meetings and the reductions to the budget plus the increase of fund balance and the increase of state aid, the bottom line right now has an increase of 2.71%. The dollar amount is $53,911,893.44. The breakout by town is Charlestown is up 0.71%. Do we want the totals for each town?
Yes, please.
Okay. 13 million.
Oh, that goes. No, just percent.
Oh, okay. Charlestown is up 0.71%. Richmond is up 2.14%. And Hopkinton is up 4.66%. Again, the total is up 2.71%.
Thank you.
What were our reductions, what are our reductions to date?
Yeah. Do you know what our reductions to date are?
Reductions and increases in revenue is 1,304,565.61.
And that reaches the goal of 1.2 million?
No. It doesn't reach today's goal of 1.2 million.
Sue, could you give me that number again? I'm sorry.
1,304,565.61.
Yeah.
565.61.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Questions from the committee on the feedback from Sue? Questions from the committee? Yes, sir.
So the number before today was the total reductions before today?
Out of the operating budget, we had cut 184,904. Out of capital, we had cut 278,400.
Additional comments from the committee?
Previous cuts from operating. More 184,904 of us.
Okay. So, Frank, I saw your hand up.
Can we just have a tally of what was reduced tonight? I don't care about Friday, I already kept
Oh,
that.
I got you.
Just tonight.
Just tonight's reductions? The summary of that?
Tonight's total reductions, which includes the $100,000 in fund balance and the $25,000 plus in revenue, is $841,261.46.
Thank you. Thank you. This brings us to F2. Approval of the fiscal year 21 budget.
You gonna recommend it, or?
I'm handing it to Jane.
Was Dave's motion addressed?
It was.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I don't see. Yes, sir.
Are they going to address line item number 4?
We did. At this time, we voted not to reduce the fund. Approval of the fiscal year budget F2.
I recommend approval of the FY 2021 budget in the amounts of $53,911,893.44, which results in a 2.71% increase overall. And that's good enough.
So moved.
Motion and a second to approve the fiscal year 21 budget. Discussion, Lisa.
Chair, with the reduction
The $100,000 from the fund balance, prior to that, we were at 3%. Could we just have, for the public knowledge, what the fund balance will now currently be? Because we're hearing a lot of chatter around the fund balance.
Right.
It seems to really have like gripped some people, so we did make a reduction to it. Can we translate that to a percentage?
Do we want it, could we come back to that?
Can I work on it and you can discuss
You
something
can't-
else?
I just
and I'll
can't
do
vote
that? Because I
until-
hadn't
I
calculated
can't.
it that way, but it wouldn't take very long. I just need to
Okay,
get into
just
that
fine.
document.
Just can't vote until.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor, so if we cannot move forward on this until we need a number, then we are in limbo. Because we're in a discussion on it, perpetual discussion on it. We know it's not 3%, it's not 2%, it's going to be, you know, we're at 2.85, something around that area. And you need this information in order for you to vote in favor of the budget?
Do you need a percentage or just a dollar amount?
What the constituents of Hopkinton need is what percentage of fund balance we are holding.
Correct.
Without a doubt, that number needs to be set.
Catherine?
So while that's work done, we adopt this budget tonight, but then we have a public hearing on this in March where we'll need 25 voters from each town in order to have a public discussion on the budget. After that point, we'll have an opportunity to reduce things further, correct?
Yes.
Correct. We have an opportunity to reduce it on the 25th of February, March 10th, and March 24th.
Can we just approve it tonight? It's not being adopted
Right.
tonight.
It's just.
Yeah, now that's important, I think, for everybody to understand that this is not the last opportunity, based on the will of the voters, to lower the budget.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
So Chair, why is that holding us up?
If it's going to take much longer, we can certainly vote. I mean, I think it'll pass. I could abstain, but I know the Hopkinton constituents, prior to my vote, need to know what fund balance we're holding.
It impacts Lisa's participation in the vote.
Yeah. I could keep going out decimal points, but basically, using rounder numbers, we would have applied, at 3%, we were applying 1,157,867. If we went down to 2.82%, we would be applying 1,258,500. So it's close to the 100,000, but it's not exactly the 100,000.
2.82.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean.
Thank you.
I'd have to go out more.
Approximately.
Yeah.
Correct. So our current fund, if we adopt this, our current fund balance would be about 2.82%.
Correct.
2.82.
Perfect.
2.82. Yep.
Thank you. 2.82%.
Yes.
Any further discussion on approving the fiscal year 21 budget? No. Those in favor of approving the fiscal year 21 budget? Okay. Opposed? Thank you. I think that gives us 9 and 2, right? All right. Thank you. This brings us to consent agenda items. We're going to need to pull A1, A2, A3, and A4.
Is that it?
Well, that's all the ones that I know people have missed.
So Chair, I make a motion to move the remainder, but before we move, I get a second. I'd like to acknowledge the donation from Brenda Diamond of Aqua Salon and Spa of color products and tubes, hairstyling products, capes, smocks, and aprons valued at $2,000 to the CTC Cosmetology Program.
Second.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda items, and thank you for the recognition. Those in favor of approving the consent agenda items, except for those that were pulled? Opposed? Abstaining? Abstaining. Thank you. So we're 10.
Chair, make
Yes,
a
sir.
motion to approve A1 budget workshop minutes of January 14th, 2020.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Those in favor of the motion? Thank you. Abstaining? Thank you. 2 abstentions.
Chair, make a motion to approve A2 budget workshop minutes of January 16th, 2020.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any discussion on those? Those in favor? Abstaining? Thank you. 1 abstention.
Chair, I make a motion to approve.
She voted in favor of it. I know.
Sorry.
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Make a motion to approve A3 executive session minutes of January 21st, 2020. Approval of the executive session minutes of December 10th, 2019.
Thank you. Motion and second. Any discussion on this? Those in favor of the motion? All right. Abstaining? Thank you. We have 2 abstentions. I figured.
Chair, make a motion to approve A4 regular session minutes of January 21st, 2020.
Thank you. Motion and second. Any discussion on this? Those in favor of the motion? Thank you. Abstaining? Don? 1 abstention. He voted in favor. Okay. Reports.
Okay. There's just a few reports. The Special Legislative Task Force to study Rhode Island education funding formula, findings and recommendations are in your packet. There are 15 findings. 10 are near-term, or ones that the legislators may take up this session, and 5 are longer-term. And I just wanted to share that with you. There are a few there specific to career tech education and things that we have been talking about here for a long time. So there, depending on what passes, there may be an impact. And then exterior camera for buses. Actually, Mrs. Rogers is going to address that.
After budget?
I know.
The bus company contacted me, and they were able to get a system in that you guys had discussed about having an exterior camera and a camera on the arm. So they are installing it on one of the buses that has had issues with people running its reds.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
hopefully we'll see where that stands going forward.
Excellent.
And then coming events, the February 12th, the Rhode Island Philharmonic Black History Month jazz performance. It's actually students at the high school will be attending, but it's in the middle school auditorium. And this was funded through an Arts Talk alumni grant that Dana Hall, our humanities specialist, was able to secure. RISCA paid the Rhode Island Philharmonic directly. So excited about that performance. The band, jazz band will actually the quintet will actually work with the jazz band after school as well. And then February 12th, the Richmond School PTO meeting is at 6:30 in the library. February 13th is early release day. Secondary dismissals at 12:45. Elementary pre-K dismissal at 1:55. February 14th, this Friday, is winter recess. There's no school for students. It also is Valentine's Day, in case you forgot. And February 17th is President's Day, also no school for staff and students. That's a holiday. And February 25th is the Ashaway School dental screenings.
Awesome. Requests for future agenda items and legal opinions, Bill?
I got a couple of them here. Two of them to the solicitor, one on the legality of us having to fund the CCRI students, and the second one is to see if there's any possible legal way that we could access some of the student activities fund for student issues. And I'd also like to request that the school committee members be supplied a copy of the student activities fund so they have maybe a better understanding of what it is, because we don't have any control over it, but it's money that's in a bank account here that's controlled by Charahoe.
Didn't we get that back in the day?
Used to be, but we don't have any control over it, George, so we stopped getting it.
Catherine?
I'd like to discuss school start times. Just to kind of explore maybe starting the high school a little bit later. We did that.
School start times,
Thank
legal
you.
opinion on CCRI funding and student activities fund access and information.
I think we had a bunch of stuff on that. I have a bunch of research that was done because we did change our school start time.
Oh, perfect. Any additional requests? Yes, ma'am.
Well, we were going to put the efficiency test, the efficiency report
back on
agenda.
Efficiency report? I mean,
Whatever.
the management.
Yes,
Or
yes,
the
yes,
management,
discussion.
yeah, whatever we want to call it these
Right.
days.
Management.
Correct. So, yes, that's already in there. Perfect.
This is different than the management study.
Now, this is going to be on the 25th at our next meeting. We're going to have another opportunity to discuss the pros and cons of the management study, cost, and whether or not we want to include it in our budget or utilize it.
Donna has a copy of the
Thank you, sir, for that. We'll make sure that the committee gets the old 94 study. Further.
You ready?
I'm sorry.
Do we have to put on the search committee on the agenda so that we can talk about?
Yep,
That's on, okay.
yep.
Here.
Wait, before, last chance? No? Yes, sir.
Make a motion for that.
Second.
Motion and second. I'm not going to discuss it. Those in favor?
Forget the discussion.
It's unanimous. If you, thank you very much,
Thank
committee,
you.
for 4.5 hours of your time tonight. Thank you.